Story 1. Found proof that my pregnant fiancée was cheating on me with my dad. So I ruined her plan at the baby's gender reveal party, but then she tried to frame me as the cheater. Hello everyone. I don't know how these social platforms work. I've never been the one to openly show my feelings to the crowd on a social media channel that is accessible to everyone. For crying out loud, I wouldn't share my feelings with the closest of friends, even if someone had a gun to my head. I am very reserved and do not prefer attention, but things have been very bad lately, and I cannot trust the opinions and judgments of my friends or well-wishers because they would all be biased. I want someone to hear the facts and blurt out the truth so that I can be sure that their statements are not influenced by their acquaintance with me. I am not going to disclose my real name or the names of anyone else in my life. I will use fake names. My story will, however, remain the same. Just a few months ago, I was the happiest person to walk the surface of the earth. I woke up with a grin plastered on my face and slept with immense contentment. The level of satisfaction I had over my life was almost unrealistic. I am saying this because I've never been a person to thank God for what He gave me or, spend hours and hours in Sunday church. Believe me, God has bestowed upon me gifts that are otherwise considered privileges. I am filthy rich because of my businesswoman mother. I have a PhD, my job pays me very well, and I already own an apartment in New York City. I never took a penny from my mother. It's all my hard work. I 32M, went out of my way to secure my future. I come from a competitive family, so can you blame me for being as perfect as possible? No siblings to irritate me, no overbearing parents, relatives who never interfered in my life, and my friend circle has some of the most accomplished citizens of my country. I had everything sorted, and then I met this gorgeous woman. I think the perfect name that would fit her is Karen. You'll know why soon. I met Karen, 28F, at a conference where I delivered a speech related to the latest advancements in the field of biotechnology and healthcare. I won't bore you with the details of the conference, more so because I don't want the curious minds out there to track me down. Just kidding. Karen is immensely knowledgeable and knows what she's talking about. She also comes from a very affluent family, and we clicked in an instant. I was 28 back then, and she was 24. We dated for more than 3 years. Almost 6 months ago, Karen came and told me that she was pregnant and expecting our baby. I was in a phase where nothing was working out for me. My research project was seeing way more hurdles than it should be. My mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, and my best friend was going through a very bad divorce, and I couldn't console or be there for her. I will tell you why shortly. Of course, I was overjoyed to know that Karen was expecting a child. What else can a man ask for but a token of his love delivered to his doorstep? Everything was great. I was spoiling Karen and treating her like a queen, which I thought she was. I was always present at home, even putting my professional commitments in the back seat. I still remember, it was a Tuesday, and I was checking my emails in the morning. That is what I do usually. Wake up, sit with a cup of coffee, answer back to important emails, and trash the rest. There was this anonymous mail that caught my attention. The subject line had text in caps lock. The letters were in my face. It was evident that the person on the other end wanted me to see the email at any cost, so I opened it and found a few pictures. It would be an understatement to say that I was shocked. You wouldn't believe me, but I could feel my heart thumping in my throat. My body heated up, and my legs began to quiver. I thought I was going to faint. They were Karen's photographs with my father, my biological father. She was on his lap with her hands around my father's neck. His face was very close to hers, and his hands were beneath her skirt. Judging by the lighting and the furniture, the 2 wine glasses on the tea table before them, the image was clicked in a public pub or club. The next picture was more devastating. It was the both of them in the living room of my New York apartment, yes, the same one I mentioned earlier. We stayed there after she decided to move in with me. They were making out. This picture was blurred as if the photographer was in a hurry. There were many such photographs. A day before I got this email, I bought a ring for Karen to propose to her. If we are having a baby, there's no point in waiting anymore. At least that is what I thought. So, just imagine how I felt after seeing that she was cheating on me with my father, of all people. I tried to reply back to the email to ask who this anonymous person was. I didn't want to lose my happy bubble, so I immediately took to the comfort of wishful thinking. We are in the AI generation, so these images could have been easily created and not clicked. Also, who could have entered my apartment to click the photographs? So I let it go. In the same week, Karen stumbled upon the ring I bought for her and started screaming in happiness. I had that gut feeling, this urge to pull that ring away from her hands, but I resisted. If I make a mistake, if I question her loyalty, I might lose her forever. I kept quiet and let her celebrate. She called her family and mine to say that we were engaged. While she was speaking to my father, I paid keen attention to their conversation, more so than necessary. I found nothing remotely wrong with it. They always had a good rapport and it was just the same. That's when I dismissed the photos as mere images. It could be someone who hated Karen and wanted her life ruined. I let it go. Now, I want to go a year back in time to tell you about my best friend. This is very important to understand my present situation. Chloe, 31F, has been my best friend since my college days. We were those people who never tried to jump from being friends to banging each other. Almost everyone in college ended up doing it, but not us. We were like siblings, being there for each other and supporting each other's dreams and aspirations. She was like my therapist, always had answers and guidance to my problems. She met her boyfriend right out of college and he was a great guy. They got married shortly after and had a daughter. I always stayed in touch with them, irrespective of where I was on the globe. When Karen came into my life, I immediately introduced her to Chloe. I wanted Chloe to approve Karen. I know there is no need for that, but some part of me wanted Chloe to look at my girlfriend and say that I made the right choice. Chloe and Karen were great with each other. We went out together multiple times, and they never showed any animosity towards each other until one day Karen suddenly said that she disapproved of my friendship with Chloe. I asked her why, and she justified her decision by saying, "Chloe wants to get into your pants. It's very obvious. Can't you see?" Not once in our decades worth of friendship did I feel that Chloe wanted to be anything more than friends. I explained the same thing to Karen, but she wouldn't listen. This is when that one-year honeymoon period of our relationship ended. We used to fight almost every day because of her assumption of Chloe's intentions. This was also around the time when Chloe and her husband were filing for divorce. They had many differences, and her husband started doing drugs and flipping through girls like they were pages of a novel. It is only natural that Chloe wanted to stay away from such a man and also keep her daughter away from his influence. She used to call me and tell me how the divorce proceedings were happening, share her problems with me, but Karen used to frown upon it. She used to say that since Chloe's old husband is out of the picture, she wants me to fill the void. It made no sense. If I pointed that out, she'd scream, cry, and start saying that I'd one day leave her for Chloe. I understand that friendships are valuable, but we were not those young people from college anymore. We had to get our priorities right. If I have to choose someone, it must be my life partner. I would be spending the rest of my life with Karen, so it was only right that I respect her insecurities and acknowledge her concerns. If she didn't want Chloe in my life, I wouldn't engage with her like I used to. Of course, I didn't want to block Chloe completely. It's not fair. I told the same thing to Karen, and she agreed reluctantly. Just as I had promised to Karen, I spoke to Chloe occasionally. I made up reasons to not meet her. Even if she called, I'd spend more time on the phone or video call with her daughter and not her. The sudden change in the dynamics is very obvious. You step into Chloe's shoes and think for an instant. If you were her, wouldn't you be baffled to see your best friend drift away when nothing went wrong? Chloe was in a bad headspace, and I only made it worse with my stupid behavior. One night, she suddenly showed up at my doorstep, fuming with anger. Chloe is a very stubborn woman, I must admit. If she wants to do something, she will do it irrespective of the circumstances. So, it was raining heavily that night in NYC, and she still showed up at my apartment, dripping wet in that flimsy raincoat of hers. For heaven's sake, the woman did not bother to fetch better rain protection to get to my place. So, you can comprehend that she was pretty furious. She started yelling at me for avoiding her calls and making her feel so alone and left out. She broke down. On one side, her husband started seeking comfort in other women, making her question her worth, and there I was, completely alienating her without giving a reason. She downright asked me if she was a terrible person because everyone important to her was suddenly walking out without turning back. I've hardly seen Chloe cry. She is a freaking strong woman. Just give it a thought how much stress that woman must have endured to break down like that, especially in front of a man who clearly ghosted her for months. I was instantly guilty. How did I end up being so selfish? She was always there for me through breakups, professional debacles, financial issues, and whatnot. There were days I crashed on her couch because I had nowhere else to go, and my ego was too big to ask my sweet mother for some money. I pulled her into a hug, and she sobbed into my shirt. Karen walked in on us, pulled Chloe away, and slapped her. I am not mincing my words. At that moment, I was so furious. I would have hurt Karen so badly if not for Chloe. I was angry that she assaulted my friend like that, but Chloe kept her cool. She calmed me down. I could see how hard Karen hit her. Chloe's cheek was crimson red, and she was already shivering because of the cold. Karen did not let her enter the house. Even I was stupid. I did not ask her to come in when I opened the door. She started unloading her emotional baggage so fast that the thought did not occur to me. Karen accused Chloe of stealing me away, well, the same thing that she told me. Chloe finally understood why I was avoiding her. She graciously told us both that she wouldn't be disturbing us anymore and left. After that, she never took my calls or let me inside her house, even though I attempted to make amends with her. She sent me a message saying her husband never chose her as his priority, and I must not be doing the same with Karen. Let's come back to the whole pregnancy scenario. I ignored the email and was back to my normal. Karen has a habit of keeping our room messy. I usually asked her to clean it up, and she would without complaining. But by then, she was 2 months pregnant, and I did not want her to do any chores. I began cleaning the room and putting her things back in their respective places. That is when I stumbled upon a file in her work desk. A DNA test. Karen's child's DNA test. And the result was very clear. I am not the father. Well, the reports did not say that, but they certainly said who the father is. My girlfriend was soon going to deliver my step-sibling. Wow, I should be throwing a party. My sarcasm might seem a bit nasty to some people, but what else do you expect from me? I was building these dreams of a romantic future with a child in tow that was not even mine. Much worse, it's my father's. I realized that Karen was playing me, and oh, she was good, but if she was going to go down that path, I'd do the same and show her what it means to be betrayed. That's exactly the thought that crossed my mind while I had those DNA results in my hand. I could go and confront her at that moment, but will she agree that she was sleeping with my dad behind my back? Will that make her feel guilty? Will she ever realize her mistake? This woman destroyed my relationship with my best friend while cheating on me with my dad. I might be petty, but I chose revenge. I wouldn't have it any other way. I am no saint, and I would never want to be one. The perfect opportunity came up in the form of the gender reveal party. This happened about a week back. The memories are really fresh in my mind, so I won't leave any details behind. Karen was 6 months pregnant. We wanted to do the gender reveal sooner, but my work commitments disturbed our plans. One of Karen's friends called me and said that they wanted to host a gender reveal party for us. I begged the chance. I agreed instantly. I still feel that rush of anger while typing this. That gender reveal pissed me off to a great extent, but I kept my composure. I had bigger plans. I started being extra nice to Karen. She did not notice. I did everything that she wanted me to do. I was never a good actor, so I was going overboard to keep my real feelings hidden and to treat her like she meant everything to me. At this point, she meant nothing to me. Nada. Any other person would have noticed the sudden sweet shenanigans, but Karen, well, Karen, she doesn't care as long as she is profiting from things. On the day of the gender reveal, I faked the excitement on my face. I also went ahead and invited Chloe and her daughter to the party. I knew she wouldn't come, so I emotionally blackmailed her. I sent her many messages that I would be needing her on the day, that it's of paramount importance, and she shouldn't ditch me for anything. I also went ahead and said that I'd never ask her any other favor in my life. I'm glad she fell for it and showed up. Karen's friends made a video montage for us. I asked them to show it to me before they played it in front of the guests so that I could help them remove any parts that might upset Karen. I emphasized by saying that her hormones were making her very jumpy these days, and I didn't want her sad on a special day. You know what makes me laugh? All her friends are men, and she had a problem with my female friend, right? I took the video, gave it a nice edit, and returned it. The friends didn't have time to go through it, so they took it right to the banquet hall where we organized the gender reveal. My mother wanted to do it in her backyard, in her villa, but I refused. Karen's truth must come out with a bang. I was driven by revenge, people. You have no idea how furious I was. It was way worse because I was bottling up my emotions. The event started, and we posed with the lovey-dovey faces. Karen gave a very lengthy speech about how I was the perfect boyfriend and would prove to be the ideal husband and dad. Yes, I am sure I will, but I prefer to do it with my own kid. After her speech, Chloe walked in, and Karen's face fell. She was irked by her presence. I knew she'd not make a big deal of it in the reveal anyway. After cutting the cake and seeing that it was a boy, we all cheered and celebrated. You have no idea how badly I wanted to pull my own hair and scream. And at last, they played the montage on the white screen using the projector. It was great in the beginning. The journey of our first meet to the first date, how we moved in together, and went on our first international trip, a cute proposal. And boom, the pictures of her with my father. I intentionally did not interact with my father for the whole evening to see the color drain out of his face. As soon as he saw the pictures, it only intensified my doubts. They both knew what they were doing. It was definitely not a one-time thing. The photographs were taken in multiple locations. It was pretty clear. The pubs, cafes, my freaking house, my bedroom, on my bed. I want you to tell me, how could I still hold on to my sanity seeing my father having intercourse with my fiancée in my bedroom? A place where I slept with her every day? How did my father betray me? There were loud gasps, a few disgusted sounds, and a lot of angry stares. Karen did not expect it. She immediately turned to me and said that the photographs were fake, probably morphed or generated, just like I had initially thought. But my father did not join her. Guilt was plastered on his face. He wouldn't meet my eye. She did ask him to join her and explain how everything was a lie. But he didn't move from where he was standing. I let her whine and complain for a long time. No one was buying it, honestly. And then I just let the video play. The next frame was the picture of the DNA test. Her name was clear on the top as the person who requested and took the test. The result was also clear. My father is the real daddy, dearest. There was no way in heaven and earth she could have refuted that. But Karen managed to do it. She made me the bad guy. She started accusing me of having an affair with Chloe. She went so far as to say that Chloe's husband divorced her because he was aware of our affair. Karen declared to everyone that the photos and the fake DNA tests were my tricks to not take responsibility for our kid and to run away with Chloe. Whatever she meant by run away. Do you know what the most surprising part was? She said Chloe made those photos to defame her. For God's sake, those photographs are clearly original. I couldn't see it the first time, but the guests weren't fooled. When Chloe said she only wanted me to see the truth because I am her best friend, everything fell into place. It was Chloe who clicked the photographs. It's kind of obvious to me now because apart from me and Karen, only she knew the code to my apartment. If I was not so engrossed in the pain of the betrayal, I would have used my brain to analyze who might have shown me the reality. That was not my priority then, right? I had to expose Karen so that I wouldn't associate myself with a woman who slept with my father right under my nose. I don't know what happened to my dad then, but he suddenly realized that he had wronged his son. I guess it was a kind of an epiphany. He stepped forward and admitted to everyone that he was sleeping with Karen, but he was honestly unaware that the child was his. Karen never told him. If he knew, he wouldn't have encouraged her to marry his son. How does that make him less guilty? You slept with your future daughter-in-law, and not once did it cross your mind that you were indeed putting your son in the dark. And now you want to be the saint? How could I excuse him? What do you think? Should I have excused him? Because I certainly did not. He also added that Chloe stumbled upon them once while they were in a cafe. There was no foul play for her to suspect, But around this time Karen started to behave differently with Chloe. She also started eating my ears off that Chloe might be sexually interested in me. When she slapped Chloe on that rainy day, my best friend finally suspected something was wrong. She followed Karen and found out how she was sleeping with my father. On that day, I threw Karen's belongings out. I asked her to leave the house. I took back all of the gifts I gave her. I spent a good amount of time over the week to tally down all the money I spent on her and sent an invoice. No, I'm not joking. I sent her an invoice named "Freaking Return My Money" by ATCH. Now, why I'm here telling you all this? Because people had mixed reactions to how I threw Karen out. While most of them were happy that I chose to remove toxicity from my life and not accept a woman who showed no loyalty, others felt I must have been generous. Do you think I should have been generous, excused my father and Karen cheating on me, and accepted the baby as part of the family? I cut all ties with my father, my biological father. Why would I still associate myself with Karen? Some of her friends said that I was too harsh in throwing her out like that because where else would she go? She is pregnant, and how will she be able to take care of herself? I expected my dad to take her in, but he did not. He had to answer to his wife, my mother, right? I also felt bad because I hardly thought about my mother. She is combating cancer. I let this news come out in the open, and she must have felt terrible. A marriage of almost 40 years crumbled and destroyed. Did I hurt my mother with my revenge scheming? Did I embarrass her in front of other people? I have no idea. I did what I thought was correct, but now I am being haunted by these guilty thoughts as if I wronged someone. Are people gaslighting me with their "think about the pregnant girl" BS? I cannot ask anyone the answers to my questions. The ones on my side would support me, and Karen's friends will speak in her support. Chloe is here for emotional support, but she refused to make my decisions for me. She said I have to figure these things out, and no one can tell me how to feel. She also added that her opinion would, of course, be biased toward me. So what do you think? Did I do the right thing or not for throwing Karen out and exposing her lies to everyone? Should I be guilty about what I did? Did I wrong my mother because of the elaborate revenge scheme? My head will bust open with all these invading thoughts. It's been a rough week, and I am still confused about what I did. I understand past is past, but just for my mental peace, can someone shed some unbiased light on my situation? Date 1. Thank you so much for your comments. I am very overwhelmed to see so many people come in support of me. I hope you didn't have to experience the same pain that I had to develop such intellectual perspectives. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. A quick update on how things have been in the past month. I finally gathered the courage to go speak to my mother. I was pleasantly surprised when she said that she was not offended or embarrassed. My mother suspected that my father had been cheating on her for over 15 years now. Can you believe that? And she never told me anything about it. She used to discuss with her girlfriends about the same, and they always suggested that she don't question my dad until she finds anything suspicious. She never did. My dad was that good. But when I exposed him at the gender reveal party, it felt like a liberation to my mother. My father crawled back to her and begged for forgiveness, something she never gave him. She stood her ground and said that she'd fight her cancer alone. She has her son to take care of her. Oh yes, I do it with my life. Karen messaged me multiple times, and I ignored her. I also intimated my apartment security to keep her off the grounds. When I refused to get into any dialogue with her, she showed up at Chloe's house. Chloe, being the sweet person that she is, explained to Karen that there is no future anymore, and that she must move on and be a better person. The next day, Karen showed up at Chloe's daughter's school and scared the little girl with her maniac screaming. She blamed Chloe and me for ruining her life and cursed at the little girl. Yes, a little girl. She kept saying that nothing good could ever come to Chloe's daughter because her mother interfered with someone else's happiness. This was way out of line, so I filed a restraining order against Karen. Chloe did the same. She twisted that against us and told our mutual friends that she saw me and Chloe making out, and that is why we filed for the restraining order. I must seriously laugh at the folks who were still believing her. She seems to be silent now. We don't have any nuisance from her end at the moment. I am just hoping it stays that way. Update 2. It's been almost 4 months now. I am here to give you another update on how things have been. Feels like I'm living a soap opera. Karen is persistent, I must give her that. Even after the restraining order, she sent me multiple emails apologizing and asking for a second chance. She said she'd give the baby up for adoption, and we can start fresh. Simple. It was that easy for her to say it. Simple. That's the exact word she used. Guess what, Karen? It is not that simple. You can't just have babies, give them up for adoption, and pray that the families they go into would give them love and affection. I don't think Karen even worried about that part. She just wanted to come back to bask in the luxury of being my girlfriend. Well, I ignored her. I think this desperation stems from the fact that she had no one left in her life that she could call her own. Karen's parents disowned her. It has nothing to do with the cheating scandal, though. Her parents were very supportive when the news broke, even suggesting that she marry the father instead of the son. Well, the father's more money, so that would benefit their family. So much for being affluent. Well, they disowned her because of some property disputes she had with her elder brother. They took his side and not hers. I didn't bother to inquire about the specifics because it is irrelevant to me. I think that did affect her immensely. Let's skip to the important part. She delivered a baby girl, and as she had said, she did give her up for adoption. We did the next best thing. We requested our acquaintances to adopt her. They've been trying to adopt for a while but did not feel a connection with any child. We asked them to meet the baby girl once and decide for themselves. Oh, they loved her. I never prayed to God, never thanked him for anything, but that day I kneeled in front of the Lord. I thanked him for giving my stepsister a family. It's not her fault, is it? Why should she suffer for the decisions that her parents made? How could I ever hate her? She will grow up to be a great human being. She deserves that chance. I would never be harsh on her. My mother is doing well too. She is responding positively to the cancer treatment and the radiation therapy. I've been taking care of her, and she moved in with me. It's like childhood again. I am always excited to come back home to my mother. Karen seems to have moved on. She found someone else. Her friends claim that they're going strong, and Karen learned from her mistakes. Good for her, then. I have no energy to wish her sadness or something worse. She could live a life of her choice as long as it is away from me. Update 3. It's been 2 years. Wow, how time flies. So, Mom is cancer-free, hooray. I am dating a very sweet Filipino girl. Never heard back from Karen, thankfully. I forgot to mention in my last update that my baby sister has a name. She is called Daisy. I am not revealing her surname for obvious reasons. Some also pointed out why I am referring to her as my baby sister because she is. I don't plan on telling her our familial dynamics anytime soon. She thinks I'm her uncle. I'll let it stay this way until she is mentally ready to accept the truth. It will take some time. Coming to my girlfriend, I am not rushing things with her. It's not because I don't trust her, but I want to give us some time and see if we are compatible. There are cultural differences, and she is 26 years old, almost 6 years younger than me. She was the one to pursue me, so I was very hesitant to say yes. I also had this thought that young girls will eventually cheat. Chloe smacked that thought out of me. She said I shouldn't look at my present through the lens of the past. Oh, how right she was. My girlfriend is a blessing, and despite her age, her maturity level is astonishing. She didn't make a hasty decision in choosing me. It was not infatuation or a result of casual flirting. She took me for me, if that makes sense to you. I am glad she did. We are doing great, traveling together to different parts of the world, and life seems so much brighter now. We are taking one step at a time, and let's see where it will lead us. I am happy for me. I'm sure you are too. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Friend's sister bullied me for 20 years, so I finally snapped back at her insults, and now half our friend group wants me to apologize, but I refused, and it started a huge fight. Background. My friend Beth, 33F, has an older sister, Jill, 38F, who has hated me since we first met. She always called me a weirdo freak, and said I deserved the bullying I got at school because I was such a dork. I stopped visiting Beth's house because of Jill and didn't see her again until Beth's 18th birthday, where she told people that I was harassing her boyfriend. I literally said hello to him, and that was it, because I was too ugly and weird to attract my own guy. Thankfully, she moved away not long after, and I was just glad to be rid of her. Now, Beth and I arranged a dinner reservation with the other 3 in our group. Liz, 33F, Kelly, 34F, and Megan, 34F. This was our first real chance to see each other in over 2 years due to a number of reasons, and we were all looking forward to a chance to catch up. Beth offered to drive me and Kelly with her to the restaurant since neither of us can drive, and I have CFS and several types of chronic pain, so traveling isn't easy for me. We caught a bus to Beth's flat together, but it was Jill who answered the door, which shocked us both. Beth hadn't told us Jill was visiting, and we'd have appreciated a heads-up since neither of us has good history with Jill. Still, we were polite. Kelly said hello and complimented Jill's dress, and I said, "Hi Jill. Nice to see you. How have you been?" Jill completely ignored Kelly and turned to me and said, "Better than you. Clearly still a pale freak, aren't you?" I couldn't help it and snapped at her that, at least I'm not a bitter hag still clinging to grudges I started with a 12-year-old. Maybe it's time you grew up a bit. Jill immediately ran off screaming for Beth and said she's not taking us anywhere until that beach apologizes, which confused me and Kelly because why would she be taking us anywhere? That was when Beth came out and revealed her car was broken. So Jill was meant to be driving us, and I shouldn't have been cruel to her sister, and that's just Jill's humor. Kelly called and said Jill is a bully and she was only surprised I hadn't snapped years ago and told me I better not apologize. I said I had no intention to. Beth said, "Well, you can make your own way to the restaurant then," and kicked us out. Kelly and I called Liz and Megan to update them and say we'd be running late since we now had to pay for a cab, and they are split. Liz thought I should just apologize because Beth is siding with Jill, and it would cut the tension, but Megan thought this was long overdue, and Jill had it coming, and Beth needs to accept her sister's actions have consequences. In the end, I refused to apologize, and we got a taxi only to find out Beth was refusing to join us over what I said to Jill. This was a week ago, and Beth is now refusing to speak to any of us other than Liz, who told her she said I was at fault until I apologized to her sister. Now for some comments. Comment 1. Thank you. Liz and Beth's reactions to this whole thing had me feel I was going insane, and Kelly and I were both really confused about why Beth didn't warn us beforehand. She knows our history with Jill isn't pleasant. TBH, I'm seriously considering cutting Beth off for this if she keeps reacting this way. Thank you for your comment. Writing this all out has made me realize I have been too forgiving of Beth over the years, especially where Jill is concerned. I think I will be cutting ties with her for sure. Their history. Thank you for your comment. I said this in another reply, but Beth and I have been friends since I was 12, and she was one of the few people in our year group who didn't bully me. Since Liz, Megan, and Kelly are all friends with her as well, it's been easier to just put up with her. It's getting ridiculous now, and I'm seriously considering cutting Beth off for this and just dealing with the fallout. Who TF holds on to 30-year drama? It's honestly bizarre, but this is exactly the same as she acted when we were in school. I do not understand her at all or what she hoped to get out of this. Nobody did anything when it was a 17-year-old picking on a 12-year-old. Beth and Jill's family acted like it was fun, and my own family were so caught up with the in-school bullying I didn't tell them about Jill's comments because, honestly, compared to what I faced at school, it was so minor. I've definitely had my eyes open about Beth and Liz because of this, and I am thinking it's time to cut them off. Beth definitely. Liz, I will give a final chance to apologize. What's so great about being her friend anyway? I've been sat thinking about your questions for the last few minutes, and I'm sad to say I cannot think of a single thing I have missed about Beth in the 2 years since we last saw each other. Our group? Sure, plenty. But Beth herself? No. As we've grown older, we've clashed more and more, especially about my health, and I bit my tongue a lot for the sake of our group. But I think I need to have a quiet word with Meg and Kelly to let them know I'll be cutting contact with Beth and Liz. Comment 2. NTA. She is a bully and always was. Do not apologize under any circumstances. Beth knows exactly who her sister is and still sided with her when Jill was clearly in the wrong. Shame on Beth. Comment 3. Beth didn't have your back, and she is not a good friend. She is an AH. Jill is an AH, and you deserve better. Comment 4. And I should have added, Beth isn't just an a-hole for not having your back. It is also inexcusable that she ever allowed her sister to talk to you like that, and baffling that she expected you to apologize. It always hurts to lose a friend, but you are truly better off without Beth in your life. Comment 5. OP. Beth has been this way for 21 years, and nothing has changed. What makes you think it'll change now? Comment 6. NTA. She can give it but she can't take it, that's the sort you don't apologize to, and Beth is an A2. Gosh, what a pair. 38 and running to 34 because another 34 was mean to her. This is a playground dispute and you called it. I'd be wary of Beth. She caused this by not telling you Jill was going to be there. Comment 7. Agreed. And then she backed up her sister who was clearly in the wrong. I almost hate to say this, but one thing I've realized over the past few years is that the people who tell you not to apologize because it's a sign of weakness have a point. I used to think that it was some borderline sociopathic power play thing, but really, it's just about not being walked on. In this case, OP did nothing wrong, so apologizing would just be admitting, I'm a doormat and you can walk all over me. Don't get me wrong. If you did something that merits an apology, you should apologize, but don't do it just to keep the peace or some nonsense. Update. Hi folks. A lot of you asked me to update after my last post to let you know what I decided to do. Thank you to all the commenters who let me know I was not going crazy. Liz and Beth's insistence that I apologize was making me second-guess myself. So I appreciate your help. Most of you also pointed out Beth's reaction was enabling Jill, and Liz's reaction was expecting me to roll over in the name of keeping the peace. I've come to realize that this has been a pattern for years in our group, playing peacekeeper to Beth and Liz for the good of the group, not only for me but for Megan and Kelly as well. So, the update. I still haven't heard from Beth, but Liz has been bombarding me with texts and voicemails saying I was out of order and owe all three of them apologies for how I acted and for continuing to drag things out. She even suggested as a way to start making it up, I should take everyone, including Jill, to a restaurant and pay for everything. I have no desire to spend what would be a month's rent on their drinks bill alone. Not to mention I don't feel I've done anything wrong. Frankly, that she even suggested this only persuaded me more to cut her off. I met up with Megan and Kelly last night and told them that I'm not apologizing to Jill. Frankly, she's stuck in her high school mean girl era, and I'd be glad never to see her again. I also said I am sick of swallowing my feelings to avoid tension because Liz and Beth never apologize, and I am cutting contact with Beth and Liz. I was expecting protests about breaking up the group. I did not expect Megan to admit she's only stuck with Liz for so long because, like me with Beth, Liz was one of her only friends during her bullied years, and she didn't want to ruin our dynamic by acting out of turn. Or for Kelly to say that for years she's been sick of Liz and Beth treating the three of us like we're inferior, and she was worried if she spoke up about it, she'd lose me and Megan as well. We all had a very overdue chat about how we all really feel about this group and agreed that Beth and Liz are not true friends to any of us. Kelly and Megan showed me their messages from Beth and Liz, basically painting me as some kind of demon hellbent on ruining their lives. I had to laugh at the one from Liz reminding them both of how I ruined her wedding by not attending due to my selfish emergency surgery. This was 5 years ago, and I'm only now hearing that I ruined things because some guests asked after my health at the reception and drew attention away from her big day. Clearly, I am an awful person for this. Anyway, we are completely cutting contact. We've saved our messages just in case because I don't see Jill, Beth, or Liz disappearing quietly from our lives once they realize we're not going to play ball. But in the meantime, we're planning a zoo trip next week, so we'll enjoy a day out free of drama. Now for some comments. Comment 1. It's amazing what communication can reveal. That being said, it's obvious that Jill, Beth, and Liz have been keeping up this charade for years and have been benefiting from it. Now that everything has been revealed to OP, Kelly, and Megan, those three can cut off the other three for good and enjoy their lives without the unnecessary drama. Comment 2. Good for you. This is truly a positive update because you three have a lot of happy times to look forward to. NTA. Comment 3. In all honesty, I would change all of your numbers. That way, you don't have to worry about them harassing you by them using other numbers to get a hold of you. Comment 4. Thank you for this suggestion. I'll pass it on to Kelly and Megan as well. At the moment, I have just blocked Liz and Beth as otherwise I need to update all my medical stuff, work friends and family, etc., and would prefer not to have that hassle. If they do start harassing me, though, then I won't hesitate to change my number. Comment 5. Great job standing up for yourself, but be warned, they'll throw a big fuss, possibly online. You might deal with some flying monkeys. Comment 6. Thank you, we are battening down the hatches just in case. I'm anticipating flying monkeys and have warned my family and other friends of what's up in case anyone tries getting at me through them. Luckily, other than an old FB page I used to keep in touch with a few friends and family abroad, my social media is pretty non-existent, so coming at me online isn't going to be easy. Kelly and Megan are both more active though and are already removing contacts and blocking people known to side with Beth and Liz. We're doing what we can to stay ahead of things. Comment 7. I was over being a teenager when I was a teenager. I'll never understand fully grown adults who still act like immature children with an undeveloped frontal lobe. Comment 8. I will never jeopardize the beans. For some people, that is their literal peak. In high school, they were attractive, popular, people liked them or didn't want to be bullied by them, which makes these people think they're incredible people. Once they've lost those things or other people outgrow them or get tired of them, they've lost everything because again, that's all they had. So they hold on to their glory days thinking, look, I'm just as awesome as I was in high school. Everyone else is wrong. Now on to the next story. Story 3. Husband's work wife disrespects me in my own home. Later I found out he had an affair with her after hiding their relationship from me for months. Hi, I am 35F and my husband is 41M. We had children quite late into our marriage, and they are currently 7F and 6M. I am writing today because my husband has a so-called work wife that I am starting to get worried about. First of all, there has never been a reason for me to not trust my husband until a year ago. All of our years together, and the majority of it being a long-distance relationship as my husband's workplace is quite far away, and he sometimes has to stay in his work-appointed housing during his work week. Nothing has ever happened for me to lose my trust in him or to even doubt his feelings for me. Except a year ago when he started talking about Susie all the time. In our relationship, we often talked about how our day went, what happened at work, etc. At the end of the day, it was all pretty normal until he started bringing up Susie, his coworker, all the time and telling me how funny she was. For context, my husband is her manager, and in the beginning, I assumed their friendship was completely platonic as she was a fresher when she started at his workplace. There is also a bit of an age difference between them as she's only 28 years old. So I have always just assumed his fondness for her is in a little sister kind of way. Anyway, my husband would tell me how amazing Susie was at work and how he felt really happy to teach her the ropes of the job. I didn't really mind that until he started joking that she's his work wife. I knew the concept of a work husband and work wife, and to be frank, I've never liked that. I was speechless when he mentioned this and asked him why he would refer to her that way. He then told me that because they spent so much time together, other colleagues started to joke around that they were perfect for each other and would even tell them that they would look good together as a couple. I felt extremely uneasy with the way he described the whole thing to me. I never knew Susie and him were that close, and I had no idea that his coworkers would tease them about it. However, a few months ago, some of his female coworkers started to mention a couple of things to me whenever I went with my husband to his office parties, and it seemed like they were trying to give me a heads up about his and Susie's relationship. For example, they have told me that on several occasions, he has answered his internal phone to her with "Hey, beautiful" in front of everyone. He's also been heard to throw affectionate comments like, "Hey, sweetie, I'm not busy. I've always got time for you. How's my work wife? And you shouldn't be so good-looking," while talking with her. As you can imagine, after I came back home, we had a huge fight regarding this. My husband denied saying these things and asked me to stop overreacting and being jealous. I was shocked by the way he kept denying all of these things and trying to turn the table on me. I started shouting at him that I felt humiliated to find out from his female coworkers that he had been calling another woman sweetie and beautiful when he never even used those words for me. My husband retorted that he is friendly with everyone, including her, and as his wife, I should be supportive of his career. We continued to fight, and ultimately, I banished him to sleep in the guest room for that night as I could not bear to sleep next to him. The next day, After I dropped the kids at school and both of us had calmed down, my husband sat me down to address my concerns. The first thing I asked him was, why would his coworkers tease him about having a work wife when they already knew that he was married? He told me that when Susie started working, she had no idea about a lot of things, so she would spend a lot of time shadowing his work and learning from him. Because she was younger than most, he never scolded her if she ever made a mistake. This would make his coworkers, especially his male coworkers who were also his friends, tease him for spending so much time with her. This is how they started to jokingly refer to her as his work wife, and Susie would also refer to him as her work husband. At this point, I felt livid at my husband, his coworkers, and at Susie. I would understand their teasing if they weren't aware of me, but even after knowing their existence, they had decided to come up with such names. I started to cry at this point out of frustration, and my husband kept apologizing to me. With tears running down my face, I asked him if he had any feelings for Susie. He immediately denied any such things, telling me that he had never thought of her as anything more than a coworker. He told me that he was sure Susie didn't have feelings for him too because she has a boyfriend. I told him that I didn't believe that Susie didn't have any feelings for him because she had never been friendly with me during his office parties. Looking back, I had never thought much about it, but now I did. He told me that I was reading too much between the lines and that she would never consider him that way when he was much older than her. He also told me that she and he were just friends, and it's normal for opposite genders to be friends. Hearing this, I immediately called him out on this because when I had a job before we had kids, he used to admonish me for talking to any male coworkers by telling me that they may not have good intentions for me and I should keep my distance from them. But now, here he was, being friends with a female coworker and forcing me to accept it. I asked him if situations were reversed and he was in my shoes, would he be happy to find out I have a work husband, and that I hid this dynamic from him all this time? This is when my husband couldn't even look me in the eye and started to cry with me. He told me how sorry he was for everything and that he slowly saw where I was coming from. He told me until then, he never thought he had done anything wrong, thinking this was all harmless, but now he knows what I feel. He kept apologizing profusely, asking me for another chance. I told him that I wasn't sure as I would have never done this with him. I also went on to tell him that I have always kept strict boundaries with my coworkers and expected him to do the same. I have never been suspicious about him, but what he has done is making me rethink. Hearing this, my husband got down on his knees, begging me not to leave him. He told me that he loves me and our children more than anything and is ready to quit his job if that is what it takes to keep our marriage. I told him I was not sure if I could believe that, and he told me that he would do anything to regain my trust back, even if it meant starting from zero. I believed him then and decided to give him another chance. I did love my husband and wanted to believe that we could come out of this issue. We started going for marriage counseling to regain our trust, and as he promised, my husband kept his distance from Susie. I have since asked some of his female coworkers who are friends with me on Facebook, and they told me how my husband firmly asked Susie to ask a female coworker for help in the future and not come to him for small things. I was happy that he was setting boundaries, and everything seemed to be going smoothly. To satisfy my curiosity further, I researched Susie a bit and found out that she had been divorced thrice. This is pretty unbelievable for a 28-year-old woman. I found out that she was originally from Spain and had come to the USA as a 22-year-old only and married her first American husband. She then divorced him and went on to marry 2 other men in the next few years. All of these 3 men were much older than her, so clearly, she had no issues with age difference. This made me realize that I was right to ask my husband to stay away from her. This all happened 3 months ago, and since my talk with my husband, we haven't faced any issues until yesterday. Yesterday night, my husband was supposed to come home early for our weekly date night. I was looking forward to spending our time together as I had not seen him all week and had even made sure that my dad had picked up the kids from school, so they could spend the night with my parents while I and my husband could get some alone time. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, and I excitedly opened it to see my husband standing in the doorway with none other than Susie. It was raining and they were soaking wet. My eyes widened looking at her, and I angrily looked at my husband. They both came in, and my husband started to say that her car had broken down on the way. She was stranded in the middle of the road and had called him for help while he was on his way back home. They had called AAA for road assistance, but because of the rain and thunderstorms, it would have taken a while. So he decided to get her to our place instead of leaving her in the broken-down car. After hearing this, I couldn't argue with him as I didn't want to be rude in front of her. I offered her a towel while my husband went to our bedroom to freshen up. I asked Susie if she wanted to have dinner with us, and she nodded solemnly. I had prepared to go out for our date night, but now I knew that we wouldn't be able to go out with this unwelcome guest in our house. I reluctantly started preparing dinner for the night. When my husband came down after freshening up, Susie, who was probably waiting for him, told him that she needed to use the washroom too. I told her that she could use our guest washroom, and Susie, without even glancing at me, asked my husband if she could use our master bathroom. He nodded and showed her the way and then came back down to help me out for dinner. I didn't want to be rude in front of her, so I whispered, asking him if she was out of earshot, and he nodded. This is when I started to angrily whisper to him that he should not have brought her back to our place without at least asking me first. He told me how he could not leave her out there in the rain and thought that as a woman, I would understand. I told him that while I definitely understood that he wanted to help a woman out, he could have asked her to go back home in a cab instead of bringing her to our place and spoiling our date night. He told me that Susie kept insisting that she was really cold, and as our house was closer than her home, he had decided to bring her here. We kept arguing, but at this point, there was nothing that I could do. Suddenly, Susie started calling for my husband from upstairs, asking him for a fresh towel. I shot my husband a death glare and told him to keep working on the dinner so I could go and see what Susie wanted. I walked up to see her peeping out of the door, smiling at me sheepishly. She told me that she wanted a fresh towel to wipe herself off after taking a bath in our washroom and didn't want to inconvenience me as she thought I was busy cooking, so she called for my husband instead. I told her politely that if she needed anything further in our home, she could ask me for it instead of my husband. I then fetched a fresh towel and gave it to her. Meanwhile, my husband had set the table, and we eventually sat down for dinner. Susie came out to join us with water still dripping down her hair. She didn't even acknowledge me and walked straight to sit beside my husband. She started asking what was for dinner, and I told her that I had whipped out some pasta as I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for dinner. Her nose scrunched hearing this, and she started to laugh, telling me that she expected me to cook something better than just pasta. I stopped eating and looked at her blankly, trying to comprehend what she was trying to insinuate. Susie then asked if this is what I serve to my husband every night when he comes home after a long day's work, and I retorted back that it was none of her business what I served to my husband. Susie snickered at me and turned to look at my husband, telling him that he deserved to be treated better than this. Hearing these words, I got up from my chair. I asked her who she thought she was to speak to me in our house. Susie then started shouting that I was being a bad wife to my husband and probably a bad mother to his children too. She started pointing out how I couldn't even cook him a grand meal when all I did was sit on my ass the whole day as I was just a stay-at-home mother. My eyes widened at this accusation, and my husband, who had remained calm until then, firmly asked Susie to stop talking as what she just told me was out of line. Susie then started to tell him that he deserved a better wife than me who could take care of him and his kids rather than a shoddy housewife like me. I wanted to slap Susie at this point for her accusations, but it was taking all my energy to keep myself calm to not make this situation out of control. I took a deep breath and looked at her squarely in the face. I told her that if she had such a great wife, then she would not have been divorced 3 times in the past 6 years. Susie immediately froze, and I went on to tell her that I knew all about her shoddy past divorces with her 3 ex-husbands, which meant she clearly didn't know how to keep a marriage intact. I told her that I knew all of her ex-husbands had been much older than her, probably the same age as my husband. I went on to tell her that I knew exactly what she was doing and that she was nothing more than just a gold digger. Hearing this, Susie burst out crying. She started shouting that I was an evil person for bringing up her past, while I smirked in satisfaction, knowing that her secret was out in front of my husband who clearly had no idea about this. I firmly asked her to get out of our house while my husband looked shaken by the whole ordeal. I kicked her out in the rain and closed the door on her while she kept shouting more abuse. She banged on our door, and I told her through the intercom that I would not hesitate to call the police if she continued with this antic. Eventually, she must have got a cab or asked her boyfriend to pick her up because she was gone after a while. Since then, I've been completely shaken. Although I did react to her angrily at that time to defend myself, I have no idea why she even got angry at me in the first place. Her words keep going around my head, and I can't help but spiral. My husband, for his part, has told me that while he understands the way I reacted, he still thinks that I was too cruel to kick her out in the rain. This has made me even more angry at him, as I would have never let someone disrespect him in our home the way Susie behaved with me yesterday. So, Reddit, AITA for standing up for myself against my husband's so-called work wife? Update 1. Hi everyone. Thank you for all your comments and suggestions. I did listen to some of your advice and asked my husband today to show his chats with Susie. At first, he asked me why I wanted to see them, but I kept insisting that I needed to know for sure if they had anything in the past. He reluctantly handed over his phone after we kept arguing, and what I found in his messages were exactly what everyone had warned me about. I went through hundreds of chats that they had previously. While my husband's replies were formal and not flirty, Susie had always flirted with him from the beginning. My husband seemed respectful to her and answered any queries she asked him. But what shocked me was that 4 months ago, she had sent a suggestive photo of my husband in a very revealing dress. He immediately asked her why she would send something like this, and she asked him if she looked good in the dress as she wanted to surprise her boyfriend. My husband told her that she was extremely beautiful, so she had nothing to be worried about, but in the future, she should not send such pictures to him. She then replied to him with a sad emoji. This interaction between them has me reeling in shock. Although nothing seemed unusual from him, it doesn't relieve the fact that my husband withheld this information from me for so long, even when we had fought over his close relationship with Susie 3 months ago. This means he had always known about her feelings but had tried to gaslight me into thinking that I was overactive and jealous. I am at a loss for words and have asked my husband to give me space so I can deal with my emotions. He keeps pleading with me to not leave him and to think about our kids. He even told me that I could talk to Susie's boyfriend if I wanted to know for sure that Susie and he were never a thing. I have never cried like this in a while, and I never realized how overwhelmed I was with this until now. I have decided to reach out to her boyfriend to see if he wants to talk to me in a last attempt to save my marriage for the sake of my children. Update 2. If you have read my story until now, thank you. I truly appreciate everyone for their kind words. I came to Reddit not expecting anyone to even read my story, but people from Reddit have taken their time to advise me on various things that are quite helpful now. As I had updated before, I did reach out to Susie's boyfriend, Michael, on Facebook. He seemed surprised when I reached out to him, as he didn't even know me or my husband existed. After I told him that I wanted to talk to him about something important regarding Susie, he told me that we could meet somewhere near his office. Apparently, he works on weekends, and the only time we could meet was during lunch hours. We met at a public park as we both felt that it's awkward to talk about this casually over coffee. I had asked him previously to not mention our meetup to Susie, so when we met, he told me that he was curious as to why he couldn't speak about this with her. This is when I started to tell him the entire story. I first apologized to him for what I had to say. I then told him I knew that it was not my place to be the one to break the news to him, but with how I found out about the relationship between Amy and my ex, I was pretty sure he had no idea of that dynamic too, so I wanted to warn him. Michael looked curiously as I showed him the entire conversation between Susie and my husband. His eyes widened in shock looking at the image she had sent my husband. He then told me that he had no idea about any of this, as Susie never even mentioned my husband to him. This was shocking to me, and I went on to tell Michael how Susie referred to my husband as her work husband, and their various inappropriate interactions which his female coworkers had told me about. Hearing all this, Michael seemed as angry as me. He told me that he understood where my anger was coming from because he felt the same way after hearing everything about Susie and my husband. Michael also mentioned how distant Susie had been in the past year and how recently their relationship was starting to get more and more rocky. He had always assumed it was because both of them were working all the time and had no idea that she was this close with my husband. He had been feeling guilty all this while for not giving her enough time. I guess this was the answer he needed to know that it wasn't his fault. We didn't talk long after that. I only said what I had to say, and he thanked me for going out of my way to let him know what was happening behind his back. I am not sure what will happen between them now, and I don't even know what Michael will do after this information. As for my husband, I haven't talked to him for the last couple of days. I am like a zombie who wakes up in the morning for the sake of our children to get them ready for school and to drop them off. I then go back into my bed and cry for hours until it's time for my kids to come back home. I don't want my kids to know that something is wrong with me. After talking to Michael, I feel a bit relieved that I helped someone out, and at least he won't be blindsided like me. I also feel a bit of clarity as to what I should be doing next. I don't know if I will ever be able to fully forgive my husband after this. He had the chance to come clean to me about all these months ago but chose to keep this a secret. I did want to talk to Susie regarding her behavior towards me, but now I don't even want to do that. After talking to Matt, I have just lost all my energy completely, and I want to remove myself from the situation now. I will talk to my parents and see if my kids and I can live with them for a couple of days. I want to heal and move on from this toxicity, but I don't know yet how to do so or what to do next. Update 3. Hi everyone. A lot has happened in my life since my update last week. Michael texted me during the weekend with the worst possible news. He told me that Susie and my husband had a one-night stand. He told me how Susie told him that she had admitted feelings for my husband in one evening while working late. They had taken things too far. My immediate reaction was to puke hearing about the affair, as it was what I had always feared. Michael also told me that after that one night, Susie had suggested that they could keep doing this, but my husband had firmly told her that he loved his family and he felt guilty for what he did. Michael sent me screenshots of their messages on Snapchat where my husband had pleaded with her to keep this a secret between them. This had probably made Susie angry, and this explains why she would throw me nasty glances during the office parties whenever my husband would take me. Michael also revealed that Susie had admitted to sending my husband more inappropriate images on his Snapchat, which he didn't refuse initially. It was only after I had my altercation with my husband that he had blocked her on Snapchat, fearing that I might find out. This is also why my husband hesitated to give me his phone when I wanted to check it. Michael decided to break things off with Susie and told me that he wanted to return the favor by telling me the truth about my husband and her. Since finding out about their affair, I can't deny anymore that our marriage has reached its end. I can't deny the fact that my husband did indeed cheat on me physically and emotionally, just like I had feared. I should have left him after his female coworkers warned me, but I foolishly believed his words. I am currently living with my parents, as I had mentioned previously, and they are furious at my husband, just like me. My dad has told me that I should leave my cheating, scumbag husband to prevent any further heartbreak. I am glad that I have such supportive parents. I have decided to reach out to a lawyer tomorrow to take matters into my own hands. I need to set a better example for my children and be a good parent to them. Both my children and I don't deserve a man like my husband who has been cheating on his family and lying to us all this while. It feels devastating that my marriage is over, but I'm learning to be okay with it. I don't want to confront him and argue with him further when I have all this proof of his affair, and I plan to serve him directly with divorce papers when I meet him next. I feel for everyone who has ever gone through something like this, but I assure everyone who has been concerned about me in the comments that my children and I are going to be okay thanks to the support of my parents. I promise that I will come out of this stronger and will leave this toxicity behind me once and for all. Now on to the next story. Story 4. Caught my fiancée cheating on me with her coworker just 2 months before our wedding. Lied about breaking contact, and now she's living with her affair partner. My fiancée, 26F, and I, 27M, had been together for nearly 5 years after meeting in college. My partner and I are both Indian, but were born and raised in the US. Despite challenges like coming from different religious backgrounds and periods of long distance, we got engaged in early December 2023 with plans to get married in December 2024. We live in different states due to my job. She is pursuing a doctorate nurse practitioner degree while working a nursing job at a hospital. Things took an awful turn in February 2024. Some additional background. In mid-December 2023, when I was with her at her place of residence, we grabbed brunch with her future AP, 42M, and his wife, married for 8 years. The future AP was a coworker with whom she had a great relationship. I never got any bad vibes from him. In fact, he seemed to be a good guy. He and his wife even gave my fiancé and me Christmas gifts after we had met. Fast forward a bit. My fiancé was with me during Valentine's week and everything was great between us. That week I did notice, however, that she was texting her coworker a bit too often, to the point that I even took notice. Again, I trusted her and didn't think too much of it at the time. She wasn't hiding it either, even suggesting for us to watch a movie that the coworker recommended. Eventually, she had to catch a flight back to her residence due to her job and left on a Wednesday morning. The day after, she texted me that she was going to grab brunch with the coworker again. There was nothing wrong with it at the time for me. I knew they were good friends and I had no problem with it. However, in hindsight, all the problems started with that brunch. For the next week, I did notice she was texting me a little less often and she was a bit more distant towards me. She texted me that she felt off, and I asked what was going on. All she said was it was stress from school and work. The reality was much worse. Eventually, I got my first D-Day. She called me on February 28th. That night, she confessed that she had kissed and loved the coworker the day before. She said, "I never thought I could love more than one person at the same time," and that she felt she loved him in a past life. Obviously, just hearing all those things upset me and I was in shock. She mentioned that the brunch she had with him was where he confessed his feelings for her. That was what was bothering her the week I noticed she felt off and distant towards me. She described to me that this happened suddenly on the night of February 27th and had a lot of consequences for both of them. After our nightly call, she got a text from her AP that he wanted to talk in person about something. They met at a bar to discuss the state of their relationship. The details I'm honestly not too sure about, even now. I guess for some reason the bathroom wasn't working at the bar and the AP had to use the bathroom, and my fiancé suggested he use the bathroom at her place. This somehow led to a kiss at her apartment. I asked her straight out if she had also had sex with him. She said no. I believed her, more on that later. My fiancé also said she was confronted by the AP's wife that same night. Unbeknownst to them, the AP's wife was tracking his location and confronted my fiancé and the AP at my fiancé's apartment. The whole confrontation was negative to say the least. I don't have the full details about what happened between the three of them, but all I know is that the AP confessed that he loved my fiancé during the confrontation in front of the AP's wife. My fiancé reiterated how much she loved me and told me she broke off contact with the AP and told him that she wished she never met him. I myself was still in shock and needed a few days to process the whole thing. I texted her in a limited fashion compared to how I was in the past. For more context, at this point we had already booked a wedding venue set for December 2024 and had booked wedding vendors, and she had bought wedding dresses as well. So the fact that she had done this was such a shock to me, given how much investment we had put into each other. She was supposed to go home to where her parents lived to pick up a wedding dress she had bought the first weekend of March 2024. However, she wasn't in the right mindset and decided not to go. Her immediate family thought this behavior was unlike her, so they actually drove all the way to her place to understand what was going on with her. After a few days of processing this myself, I still thought the relationship was salvageable. I thought to myself, okay, it's just a kiss. Even though she said she loved him, she said she broke off contact. We needed to go to couples counseling and pause any sort of wedding plans this year and just work on us. I asked her if we could call again on Saturday, March 2nd, to talk about our relationship. She agreed. We called on Saturday. I explained to her that we needed to pause wedding planning. She agreed, but said we actually needed to stop the wedding entirely as well. I asked why. She said then that I knew why. After a few seconds, I realized the unthinkable. I reluctantly asked if she had also had sex with him. She said yes, and I broke down and wailed on the call. We basically broke it off at that point. She asked if we could have limited contact and I agreed, mainly because her family knew the full extent of her actions and essentially disowned her out of shame. I didn't want her to be isolated and I felt comfortable enough to keep contact because she broke off contact with the AP. That was my assumption at the time. In the next 2 weeks, I was surrounded by a good support system to get me through it. My parents came down to give me company after I told them of my fiancé's cheating. They were sad for me, but they were also relieved I wasn't going through with the marriage due to the religious differences. I was raised Christian. I also hung out with friends for another week that came down to my apartment to give company and support as well. In those weeks, I was going back and forth about giving my fiancé another chance and attempting reconciliation. My justification was that my fiancé showed remorse, was accountable, and broke off contact with the AP. My plan for going through with reconciliation was that I needed to have access to our communications. We needed to either attend discernment couples counseling, she and I had to go through individual counseling, and we also needed to define boundaries more clearly. That was my plan. In my limited contact with her, I asked if we could have a call later in the week to discuss things. She agreed. I brought up the idea of reconciliation to my parents 2 nights before the scheduled call. They were not in agreement with my decision. They said I was making a mistake. Then my mom said something odd. For reference, my parents had met my fiancé's parents already and they occasionally called each other. After the whole cheating situation, my fiancé's mom called my mom at some point to vent and be brief about the whole thing to her. In that call, my fiancé's mom told my mom that the AP was with my fiancé at her apartment when my fiancé's parents were confronting her about it. I was shocked when my mom told me this. My fiancé had said she broke off contact with him. Why would he be with her when her parents were confronting her? I texted her that night while she was at work, asking, "Is AP living with you?" Her first response was, "Why are you asking that?" Obviously, I wasn't thrilled with that initial response. It's a simple yes or no question, and I felt like I had a right to know, given our history and situation. But eventually, she confessed that the AP's wife kicked him out of their house and the AP was spending thousands of dollars on hotels, and my fiancé allowed him to live with her because of that. When her parents confronted her, he was only there initially for her support, but is now living with her. Afterwards, I was livid. This was absolutely disrespectful to our relationship, letting the affair partner live with my fiancé. I straightforwardly told her that it was a badass idea to have him at her place, and her response was, "Why are you saying that? He just needs a place to stay for now." I never in my life thought I would have to explain my thought process for something like that. I thought it was obvious. My simple explanation was that the affair partner ruined our relationship, and her response was, "OP, please. I ruined him and his wife." I was flabbergasted. Why was she prioritizing him over me, the person she said yes to marrying just 3 months ago? I mentioned that the reason I wanted to call was that I wanted to try reconciliation, but after she kept this hidden from me, I immediately reconsidered. Her response was that even if I did want to work on us, it wouldn't have been the same as before. I told her not to bother calling me if he was still at her place. She begged me not to say that, to stop saying that. I wanted to have closure with her in some capacity, but after him living with her and keeping that from me for weeks, it wouldn't help because I wouldn't believe a word coming out of her mouth. She acknowledged that she messed up, insisted on caring about my well-being, but she admits the cause of this whole affair was that she loved the affair partner. Despite telling me this, she still wants to know that I am okay. I told her no. She doesn't deserve to know that I'm okay. The cheating was horrible enough by itself, but I assumed it was a sudden thing and that it wouldn't happen again. But I was a fool for believing that. Allowing the affair partner to live with her was a conscious decision, a slap in my face, and disrespected me to the fullest. I straightforwardly told her that she can't keep in contact with both of us. She can only contact me if he's out of the apartment, otherwise she can EF off. That was the last thing I said to her, and I have not gotten a reply from her since March 21st, 2024. Fun fact, I was talking with her best friend about this whole situation about a week after this, and you want to know something? Apparently, he started living with her either the day we officially broke it off or the day after. WTF? I don't even know who she is anymore. The person I proposed to in December 2023 is long gone. I can't help her anymore with her problems because of what she has done to me. All I hope now is that she comes to her senses and realizes what a mistake she's making by having him live there with her. She's just such a broken individual right now. Want to know something else? Her parents are divorced. You know why they divorced? Her dad cheated on her mom. She despised her dad because of it, and she did the exact same thing to me. How ironic. So yeah, that's where I am at. I'm trying to heal, but it's hard. I can't stop the mental imagery of the affair from popping up, and I always wake up in the middle of the night ever since this happened. It is horrible. I am grateful for my friends and family who kept me sane, but it's still so hard knowing she cheated on me. I never thought she would do this to me after all we've been through together. Now on to the next story. Story 5. Wife pranked our family by accusing me of cheating before announcing her pregnancy. Then her sister stood up and said my wife was actually the one having an affair with her ex. My wife, 28F, and I, 28M, have been together for the past 7 years and have been married for the past 2 years. Recently, at a dinner party that she hosted, she announced that she was pregnant, but after a prank on all of us. Unfortunately, that whole thing backfired horribly, and right now I have no idea what to do. For context, the pregnancy announcement was supposed to be a surprise, and I didn't know about it either. I thought the dinner party was being hosted just because she wanted to get the families together because we hadn't all hung out in a long time. Started off pretty well. Everyone came over. We were having a good time, and then all of a sudden, she made the announcement that she had something to share with the entire family, and that's why she had gathered us all here today. All of us were curious, especially me, because I really thought that she was announcing her pregnancy at first since she had made such a big deal out of it. But then I got the shock of my life, and she started talking about me and my affair. I've always been loyal to my wife. I couldn't even dream of having an affair of any kind, so I was dumbstruck and so was everybody else. She made up some story about me and my coworker and told me that she had seen us together and I couldn't deny it anymore. So she decided to expose me in front of the entire family, and now we are going to get divorced. I was almost on the verge of tears because I knew for a fact that none of this had happened. I had no idea what she was talking about, but she sounded pretty serious, so I was about to start begging her to hear me out. But then she burst out laughing, and that took everyone by shock, including me, after which she finally announced that this was just a prank, and she had actually hosted the party to announce that she was finally pregnant. She played it pretty cleverly, and we all started celebrating almost immediately, completely forgetting about the prank. I had thought it was a little ghoulish of her to pull a prank like that, but anyway, I was ready to forgive that because of the pregnancy announcement that came later. However, just as we were all about to get up and congratulate her, my sister-in-law started to make an announcement of her own. Ronnie, my sister-in-law, is 2 years younger than my wife, and they have always been the best of friends. So when she announced that she was really disappointed by the fact that even now my wife had chosen to keep her secrets instead of being honest with me, I was a bit threatened. And then it got worse when she announced that it was really disgusting of her to pull a prank like that when in fact it was she who had been cheating on me every time that her ex came back to town. Apparently, she had caught them out on a date at a restaurant, and she hadn't managed to get any pictures, so it was just her word against my wife's. But she wanted me to believe her. After Ronnie said that, my wife started yelling at her immediately, telling her that she was lying and just wanted to ruin her marriage because she couldn't find anybody for herself. My wife was furious, but I was just really confused as to what to believe because she and her ex had been together for many years when they were in high school, and even when my wife and I started going out in college, we had an on and off relationship for a couple of years in the beginning, all because of her ex-boyfriend. He refused to let her go, and she kept patching up with him too, but after several breakups, I made it clear to her that she could either commit to me or let me go, and she chose me. I thought that would be it, but after hearing Ronnie say this, I don't know what to believe anymore. I would believe my wife in a heartbeat if Ronnie and she had had a terrible relationship, but from what I knew, she and her sister had always been the best of friends, and that's why I just can't seem to get it out of my head. Besides, the story that Ronnie told us all at the party regarding how she had caught them together, it just seemed too specific to be made up. She even mentioned the restaurant where she had seen them at and told us that for the past 3 months she had been keeping this a secret because she wanted my wife to tell me the truth because it would probably only hurt more coming from her. Apparently, Ronnie had even told her sister to come clean to me several times, but my wife had refused. And when she started talking about my affair as a prank at the dinner party while building up to her pregnancy announcement, she just thought it was distasteful and felt like she had to say something because now that my wife was pregnant, there was also the question of whether the baby was actually mine or not. And all these things have been eating me up on the inside, but I've been trying to make it look like I'm all right. After Ronnie's announcement, My wife kicked her out of the house and asked everybody else to leave as well so we could speak in private. And since it was just our families, nobody else knows what's been going on yet. My wife has been trying to convince me that Ronnie was lying just for the sake of it, but I can't think of a single reason why she would make up something like this because we've all had a good relationship so far. And now that I think of it, for the past couple of months, Ronnie has been acting strange around my wife, and they don't even talk to each other as much as they used to, so she might be telling the truth. There's just no way for me to find out because there's no proof of anything yet. So, last night I couldn't take it anymore, and I told my wife that if she really had nothing to hide, then I would want to go through her phone. I told her that I wanted to do it immediately so she wouldn't have the chance to delete or hide anything, and she immediately started screaming at me, telling me that the fact that I was even entertaining the idea that she was cheating on me was very insulting for her. I could totally understand where she was coming from since I would probably feel the same way if she did something like that, but the thing is, nobody has ever given her a reason to feel like she needs to doubt me. I've been fully committed to her right from the beginning, even when she was confused about me and her ex. I told her that I really wanted to trust her, but she is aware of the fact that her ex-boyfriend is a sore spot for me. Besides, she knows that she and Ronnie have been very close. She wouldn't just lie about something like this to ruin our marriage for no reason. She was literally the maid of honor at our wedding. It seems unlikely that she would suddenly turn on her, and there's no smoke without fire. So I just wanted to go through her phone for my own peace of mind, and my wife refused. She told me that she was not letting me go through her phone at any cost because if I didn't trust her, it meant that I trusted Ronnie more than my wife. So she suddenly turned this into a loyalty test, asking me to pick a side, even telling me that maybe I had developed feelings for Ronnie, and this was something that both of us were cooking up to go against her or something. I obviously told her that it was BS that she was even coming up with a theory like this, and so we got into a huge fight after that, probably one of our worst ones ever. She told me that if I couldn't even trust her, then she didn't want to be with me, but I stood my ground and told her that I needed this. Eventually, she left so she could go stay with her parents, and now I feel terrible about whatever has happened. I know for a fact that I'm being paranoid, but again, why on earth would Ronnie lie about something like this? I feel bad that I'm doubting my wife after so many years of being together, especially when she's pregnant, but I can't help it. Am I the a-hole for demanding to check my wife's phone? Edit. A lot of you want more information about my wife's relationship with her ex, so this is all I know. She and her ex had been together since they were 14 and decided to break up mutually before they headed out for college since they were going to different places. But by the time they started college, they felt like getting back together, and so they did. And unfortunately, they figured out pretty quickly that long distance was not for them, and that's how the whole on and off thing started. Then, while she was in college, she met me and started developing feelings for me as well, but she was very confused about what to do, and I decided to give her more space initially because I really liked her and I wanted to be with her. So I did not pressure her to commit to me in the beginning. But then when it started feeling like she was making me hang around as backup, that's when I decided to give her the ultimatum. After that, she finally started taking me seriously, and within a couple of months, she and her ex had broken up for good. It was not mutual when they broke up for the final time, but she had dumped him because she wanted to be with me, and they were done and dusted even though he wanted her back. She had been completely transparent with me about the whole situation and had even apologized for not treating me right, but since then, things have been really good between us. Of course, they've been good, otherwise we wouldn't even be here today. But nevertheless, she knows that I'm a bit insecure when it comes to her ex. Apart from like 2 flings that didn't even last more than 3 months, we are the only 2 serious boyfriends that she has ever had, and given the whole on and off scenario in the beginning, I think it's natural for me to feel insecure about him. Anyway, I think that's enough information about my wife and her ex so you guys can make up your mind. Update 1. Hey! Thanks to everyone who commented on my post. The comments themselves were pretty divided on what I should do or whether I am the bad guy here or not, but well, it is a complicated situation so I don't blame anybody here. It's been 3 days since my wife left, and I've spoken to everybody about this. Everybody in the family, that is, since I still don't feel comfortable enough bringing this up with any of my friends. It's way too personal, and I'm trying to keep this limited to the people who already know about the situation. My parents haven't been very helpful. They've told me that they can see both perspectives, and without knowing the truth, They can't come to a conclusion, which is fair enough, I guess, but also not very helpful. My in-laws have refused to get involved at all. The only thing that they have told me is that my wife is miserable right now, and she and Ronnie are also having a lot of trouble. Since she has gone back to stay with her parents, it's become a bit of a problem for them because Ronnie stays in an apartment quite close to their parents, and they have to see each other very frequently since she visits her parents often, which means that they have been fighting a lot. My wife has been accusing Ronnie of trying to ruin our marriage, and Ronnie insists that she's telling the truth. She wouldn't stand anything to gain from trying to ruin our marriage, anyway, which is also fair enough, and it's just messing with my head even more. The only person I haven't spoken to about any of this yet is Ronnie because honestly, I don't even know what to ask her. I feel like I should speak to her since she is the one who opened Pandora's box in the first place. But I don't even know how I'm going to approach her. Besides, I feel like if I ask her about this and my wife somehow finds out, that will be the end of our marriage. Not that I'm very hopeful about fixing this in the first place because our future together seems pretty bleak right now anyway. Even though I'm very confused about what to do, I know that at some point, I'm just going to have to suck it up and talk to her so I can get the details of what she saw and how she found out whatever she is claiming has happened. That's the only way I think I can get to the bottom of this mess. Update 2. So, I finally ripped off the Band-Aid, and I decided to talk to Ronnie about whatever she had said at the party. It's been 2 days since my last update, and after a lot of deliberation, I decided to call her up. I didn't care about what my wife would think about this right now. I couldn't afford to care about that because I needed to find out the truth. Ronnie answered the call almost instantly and told me that she knew what I was calling about. Before I could say anything, she apologized to me for bringing everything up in front of our families, but it was just my wife's prank that had rubbed her the wrong way. She told me that for the past 3 months, after she had caught my wife with her ex at the restaurant, she had confronted her about it, and my wife had been promising her that she would come clean to me at some point, but it had never happened. And obviously, it had strained their relationship greatly as well, because she couldn't believe that her sister had ended up being a cheater. She felt bad for both of us because she knew that I loved her. She had been insisting that my wife tell me, but after the distasteful prank that she pulled before announcing the pregnancy, Ronnie figured out that she would have to tell me the truth herself because my wife was just never going to do it, especially now that she was pregnant. She told me that she had wanted to click some pictures, but she had been in shock that day when she saw them together, and she was out with coworkers as well, so it would be very difficult for her to explain why she was clicking pictures of people at the restaurant all of a sudden. But she went into great detail about what she had seen, and I really don't think that she could have made any of that up. Call it my gut feeling or whatever you want, but when she was narrating the entire incident to me, I just didn't feel like she was making it up, and add to that the fact that by the end of the phone call, even Ronnie herself had started crying, telling me that she really didn't want it to come out this way, but at some point, she owed it to me because I had always been nice to her. She couldn't allow her sister to do this to me, and she wouldn't have been able to forgive herself if I had the baby with her without ever knowing the truth. Then she even asked me to forgive her for not being able to provide any proof apart from her word. I told her that it was fine because I knew that this was probably not easy for her either since she loves her sister. But well, it is what it is, and now we have to deal with it. I've already heard her out, and the only thing that I can do about this now is talk to my wife. It's going to be difficult, but I have to do it, and by talk, I mean really just talk about it, no fighting, no arguing, and no getting defensive. We really need to get to the bottom of this. I just really hope that she is open to an honest and transparent conversation because right now, she doesn't seem very receptive, but I'm still going to give it a try. I've already spoken to my in-laws, and I've told them that I'm going to be visiting them tomorrow. I can't do it today because I really need to mentally prepare myself before I see her again, especially given the topic of discussion. I need to brace myself for whatever it is that I'm going to learn, and anyway, just wish me luck for tomorrow. Update 3. Hi, so I just came back from my in-laws' place and well, long story short, she did cheat on me. There it is, the truth. I don't know how to feel about this. I guess somewhere deep down, I had already figured it out for myself as soon as I heard Ronnie talk about it, but so far, I had still been giving her the benefit of the doubt because I wanted to pretend that everything was fine and we could still work this out. Unfortunately, now that I know the truth, I can't even pretend that everything is fine anymore and live in denial about all this. Anyway, when I went over to my in-laws' place today, I was nervous, and when my in-laws decided to leave as soon as I entered their house to give us some privacy, I knew that there was something off. When I saw my wife, she immediately started crying, and I didn't even need to say anything. She just confessed. I actually went numb at that moment, and I had no idea how to react to that information. She just kept crying, and she told me that after we started dating for real, she cut him out of her life entirely. She didn't even have any contact with him until after we got married because she knew that she loved me, and now that we were married, she would never have anything to do with him ever again. So she thought it would be safe to give friendship with him a chance because he never gave up on her. He always kept trying to contact her in some way or the other, and she felt bad for him. So a couple of months after we got married, when he tried to reach out to her through a couple of friends to tell her that he was back in town and he wanted to meet her just once, she decided to go ahead with it. She didn't think that anything could go wrong because she was sure of her feelings for me, and now that she was married, even he had said that he just missed having her in his life because they had been friends for a long time too. So she went ahead and got lunch with him one day and decided that she would tell me about it later instead of discussing it with me first, but she never ended up doing it because after lunch they ended up hooking up anyway, and she thought that she would block him again and cut him out of her life, but she just couldn't. He stayed out of state for work, so he would visit every couple of months to meet his parents, and that's when they would meet. And every time she would apparently decide to put an end to their affair, but every time she would fail. Then, of course, the last time that they met, which was 3 months back, she was caught by Ronnie, and everything that Ronnie had said had been true. She had been hiding everything from me and had been begging Ronnie not to tell me about it. When she made the pregnancy announcement, she didn't take into account that Ronnie would be there too and probably wouldn't like the whole thing given the circumstances. She thought it would be funny to play that prank. She totally forgot about everything else, and she genuinely did not think that Ronnie would make an announcement at the party about the affair, especially after she had just told everyone that she was pregnant. This baby was apparently supposed to be the key to repairing her marriage because after she had found out that she was pregnant, she had even texted her ex and told him that she was keeping the baby and that she didn't want to see him again. So the next time he would come here, they would not be meeting, and she had even blocked him after finding out that she was pregnant. That hurt to know because technically, even her ex knew that she was pregnant before I did. Anyway, it hurt even more that she was going to hide the affair from me forever, and I was just going to have to suck it up and deal with it if Ronnie hadn't made that announcement at the party. I had been feeling doubtful about whether the baby was even mine or not, but she reassured me that the baby was definitely mine because she was just a couple of weeks along, and the last time that she had met and hooked up with her ex, it had been more than 3 months ago, so it was almost impossible for the baby to be his. But by then, I had heard enough. She was still crying while confessing everything to me, and after she was done explaining, she told me that she really did not want me to go. The reason she had gotten so defensive when I actually tried to check her phone the last time was that she knew that she was guilty, and she didn't want me to find out. But after thinking about it long and hard, she had decided that she had to be honest with me because she couldn't start this new chapter of motherhood based on a lie. And I guess she had finally developed a conscience, which is why she was telling me the truth. She told me that she was ready to accept whatever decision I made, but in all honesty, she did not feel ready to do all of this alone. So she would really want me to consider marriage counseling so we could try and fix the problems instead of heading for divorce. I didn't know what to say to her, so I just told her that I needed time to think about everything, and I do. I need a lot of time to process whatever I have been told so far because I just realized that I've been cheated on for the past 2 years, and I'm questioning everything that I've known. I don't even know if she loves me, and it sucks that I'm sure that I still do, but love is not enough. Definitely not when she's about to become a mother and I'm probably about to be a father. With a baby on the way, I don't want to take any chances, so I have to be very careful about what I decide, whether I want to give our marriage a chance or not, whether I even can afford to do that given the circumstances, because I'm not sure I can ever deal with this or trust her again, and if I can't, it'll be pointless to try marriage counseling because we will just end up fighting, and I don't want to ruin my baby's life by forcing him to grow up in an unhappy home. So I'll have to think about this, and only then will I be able to come to a decision. I'm still reeling. I haven't been able to process anything, and I feel like I'm on the verge of breaking down, but at least I know the truth now. I don't know how I feel about it, but anyway, I can't change anything about the situation now. Update 4. Hey guys, so it's been 1 week since my wife confessed to me, and a couple of days ago, I told my parents about what I learned. My in-laws are probably already aware of the truth. I'm guessing that's why they had left the house that day. Anyway, when I told my parents, they were shocked, and while speaking with them, I finally allowed myself to break down. I had been trying to hold myself together all this while and put up a strong front because I still had to behave like nothing was going on when I was at work and stuff, but I just couldn't anymore. I think I cried for almost half an hour nonstop and let it all out while they comforted me. Now, apart from my wife and her family, and of course you guys, my parents are the only people who know about her affair. I haven't been on speaking terms with my wife, even though she has been texting me every other day, telling me that she's really sorry about everything and she really wants to fix our marriage, but I don't know what to say to her, so I've been ignoring her. I still haven't figured out what I want to do. I love her, but I don't know whether going back to her would be the right thing to do now or not. On one hand, she's pregnant with my baby, and growing up in a broken home, that's going to be sad for our future child. But on the other hand, I'm not even sure if I can trust her anymore. As I had said in my last post, I'm very confused. I haven't processed my feelings about this, but thankfully, my parents have told me that no matter what I decide to do about the situation, they are going to try their best to be supportive of me. So that counts for something, and I guess I'll take a couple of days more to think about what I want to do in the meantime. Thank you so much for everyone who has been so supportive of me. It means a lot to me, especially right now since I don't really have my friends to count on because they don't know what I'm going through. So this support means the world to me. Thank you so much. Update 5. Hi. So it's been a month since my last update, and a couple of days after I posted, I finally was able to make up my mind about what to do. I realized that no matter what, I would just never be able to trust my wife again, and if I can't trust her, then it doesn't matter if I love her or not. If I decide to give our marriage a second chance and stay with her, regardless of any amount of counseling, we will inevitably end up fighting, and that's just going to make everyone unhappy. So for the sake of my own peace of mind and the future of our child, I reached out to her, and I told her that I would like to get a divorce. I thought she would be hysterical, but she just sounded resigned. We spoke on the phone, and I told her that I would be speaking to a lawyer, and she told me that she understood. She didn't put up a fight or anything, which I'm thankful for because that would have just made everything even harder than it already is. Since then, I've spoken to my lawyer. We have filed for a divorce, and she agrees to my terms as well because they're fair enough. Also, for those of you who were worried about her trying to dupe me into raising a child that was not my own, that's not the case. We got a paternity test done just to be on the safe side, and the child is 100% mine. We are discussing custody arrangements right now. It's obvious that we are going to have to co-parent our child, but we just have to work out the nitty-gritty at the moment. Apart from that, it's been a smooth process so far, but that's just the legal aspect. Emotionally, I still have a long way to go before I recover from any of this. A couple of days ago, we finally announced our separation on social media so that people would at least know that we are not together anymore. We didn't go public with the fact that she had been cheating, but my close friends know about her infidelity, and they have been incredibly supportive of me. And with everybody's support, I'm sure that I'll be able to feel better about all of this soon enough. For now, I guess I'm just going to try to figure stuff out on my own, so I don't think I'll be posting as much. I have my friends and family, and I'm really grateful to everybody here as well, so thank you so much. Now on to the next story. Story 6. Fiancé dumped me for making more money than him, then saw me having coffee with a family friend, lost his mind, and showed up at my door accusing me of cheating. Hey everyone, I, 28, had been with my fiancé, Alex, 34, since 2020. We met at a friend's party, hit it off, and had been together ever since. He finished his doctorate in economics just last year. Since then, he has been working at the uni. I have my master's in media sciences and decided to start working instead of going for a PhD. Okay, so the problem is that Alex broke up with me last Monday. It was literally so surreal and honestly, just weird. For the past few months, he'd been acting strange. He was making demands and then dropping them immediately. A few examples. He told me we were going to paint our walls back from dark green to white. When I asked why, he just said, "For EF's sake, forget it," and never brought it up again, even when I asked. Another time, he came home and got mad because I was sitting on the couch with my head covered in a blanket. I had cramps. He was upset because I was just sitting there watching Netflix. Mind you, the house was spotless. When I tried to talk about it, he said, "Forget it. It's not a big deal. This kind of thing became common. Every time I tried to communicate, tried to figure out what was going on, whether it was something I did or maybe he was just stressed at work, he would just say everything was fine, but he was clearly seething with rage. I didn't even have to do anything. He would find something to complain about: the apartment, clothes, me, work, etc. So I gave him space, which apparently was also wrong. I told him I was going to help my parents with repairs for a few days, and somehow that was also wrong because he wanted to renovate the apartment too. Then on Monday, I got a text saying we needed to talk. I knew what was coming, and after the last few months, I had made peace with it. When I came home, he was sitting on the couch. He didn't even wait for me to take off my jacket before saying, "I want to break up." Then the verbal diarrhea started. He told me he resented me, first because I didn't pursue my academic career further, even though I was capable, and he didn't want to upset me at the time. Then, when I started making more money since he didn't make much as a PhD student, he felt like I should have the last word financially, and he hated it. Mind you, I never said anything like, "It's my money, so I have the final say." That's a rule he imposed on himself, and he hated it. He said he hated our paint scheme, the couch, and even our effing crockpot. Then he told me he had rejected a better PhD program to stay here because I had already started my job by the time he got the acceptance letters. Only, he never told me he had even applied overseas. He said a few months ago he checked in with a friend who's in that program, saw how they were thriving, and decided I ruined his life. He said I had too much control over his life and that he hated the idea that I could just decide not to pay for things and EF him over. I honestly don't even know what that means. He also said he hated that all his friends loved me and didn't let him vent about me. Then he said again, "I'm done." I was floored. I had already made peace with the idea that we were ending, and it hurt, but after that rant I was just disgusted. I looked at him, probably with a disgusted expression, and said, "Okay." He lost it. He said, "This is exactly what he meant, that it was horrible. We had been together for 4 years, and all I had to say was, 'Okay,' to our breakup. I just asked if he wanted to stay here while he figured out where to go. He said, 'Typical. Of course, you're holding the apartment over me,' and started ranting again, so I just left. I told my parents, and they're also confused. My dad suggested I reach out to our landlord and explain the situation to see what options I have. I can keep paying the rent, no problem myself. He covered the utilities and some subscriptions. Just to reiterate, I never had a problem with this. I saw that he was chasing his dream, and that was more important to me than a 50-50 financial split. I make good money and I'm happy at my job. I never saw it as slaving away. I always had the mentality that my money was our money because we were building a life together. Of course, I had my own savings and fun money, but I honestly never cared as long as I felt he was working towards something and wasn't taking advantage of me. I was fine with it, more than fine. Alex is still mad. He's going between texting me like a robot about the logistics of the split to being a seething a-hole complaining about everything. I'm not even hurt anymore. I just feel nauseated by him at this point. I don't know. Should I have reacted differently? Edit. Thank you for all your opinions. It was nice to get this off my chest, lol. Just to clarify though, I don't feel like a victim. I feel like something happened and my relationship just turned bad. He behaved like an a-hole, but that is the extent of it. Very clearly, something is going on, but he doesn't want me to be part of whatever it is, and I have to respect that. Now I just have to detangle myself legally from him, and after that, I'll just be left alone with my ugly green wall color. I think I might also adopt a cat as he was really allergic. Comments where OP has replied. Comment 1. Dude. Basically hates himself for decisions he took without ever consulting you. He chose his comforts, but now since others seem in a better position, he is venting on you and making you the culprit. NTA. But your man has a little brain and doesn't know what to do with it. OP. I would have supported him if he wanted to move away. We would have stayed together because LDRs are hard, but I would have been 100% supportive. Comment 2. I suspect he was afraid or had other reasons to turn down that PhD, or maybe never even applied but believes he would have got it if he did, but chooses to blame you rather than acknowledge that. Comment 3. He probably chose this because she would be there to pay the bills. It's more stable. Comment 4. Girl, I've been with a man like that. They want drama, they want toxicity, They will EF up your life out of pure insecurity and hate. You dodged a massive bullet. I'm sorry this happened. You deserve better. Wish you the best. OP. Then I hope he meets the telenovela star of his dreams. I prefer my boring, happy life. Date 1. To start, Alex moved out pretty quickly after the breakup. He has been staying with a friend and we sorted out everything like mail, subscriptions, and the lease. I'm also in the process of adopting a cat. Her name is Luna, but I have been thinking about changing it since my family already has 2 pets named Luna, Aman and Kamar. She is still at her foster home for now, but I have visited her a few times and I already adore her. She is a scrappy little tabby who follows her foster mom around like a shadow, and I can't wait for her to move in during the first week of December. I've already gotten her bowls, toys, and a bed by the window ready. Now on to what happened last week. I was out showing someone around the city. He is the son of my parents' friends who recently moved here for work. My parents asked me to help him get familiar with the area, so I agreed. It was nothing special, just walking around, grabbing coffee, and pointing out useful spots in the city. Apparently, Alex saw us. I didn't even realize he was there. But later that night, I started getting texts from an unknown number. I guess he got a new number since I blocked his old one. The texts were just weird. He accused me of flaunting my new relationship in public, said I must have been seeing this guy before we broke up, and told me that everything he suspected about me was true. I didn't respond. I wasn't going to entertain his paranoia. The messages kept coming though. They went from angry to desperate with him saying things like, "At least admit you were lying to me," and "Was anything about us even real?" It was exhausting and honestly, a little scary to see how quickly he spiraled. For the record, this guy isn't my boyfriend. He's not even someone I'm interested in. He's just the son of family friends who needed help settling into the city. The whole thing was completely innocent, but Alex has twisted it into some kind of betrayal in his head. What gets me is how little Alex seems to know me. I'm not the type of person to jump into a relationship so soon after everything that happened. Even if I were, it wouldn't be any of his business. We are done. I've made that clear. After I didn't respond to his texts, Alex started calling. I didn't pick up, but the voicemails were a mix of angry rants and desperate pleas. I ended up blocking his new number too. It feels ridiculous that I have to keep doing this, but I guess this is where we are now. Then this weekend, I went out to a bar with my friends. A few hours in, guess who walked in? Alex. I don't know if it was a coincidence or if he followed me there, but as soon as he spotted me, he came straight over. He was clearly upset, asking to talk, and I told him no. My friend stepped in, and thankfully he left without causing a scene, but it ruined my night. It felt like I couldn't escape him no matter where I went or what I did. When I got home later that night, I was completely drained. I had just started to relax when I heard a knock on my door. It was Alex standing there in tears. He started crying, saying he missed me, that he didn't understand why I was doing this to him, and that he didn't know how to move on. It was like all the anger from earlier had been replaced with this desperate sadness. I didn't let him in. I told him he needed to leave, and if he didn't, I would call someone to make him leave. He begged me to listen, but I just closed the door. I spent the rest of the night feeling shaken and honestly, a little scared. I don't know what he's going through. I wrote his best friend about the situation, but the plea of talking to him, he said he would. I'm seriously considering getting a new phone number and possibly even talking to someone about how to handle this legally if it keeps happening. It feels unfair that I have to go to these lengths just to have some peace, but I don't see another option. Update 2. Thanks for the concern and support I've received. I'm fine, really. A lot of people suggested things like getting a restraining order, but I just want to clarify that it's not as simple as walking into an office and asking for one. The process involves proving there is an immediate danger to your safety, providing evidence like texts, calls, or witnesses, and then attending court to get approval. It's not something you can do lightly or without solid proof. And no, I'm obviously not getting a gun. I've also seen people diagnosing Alex with various mental health issues, and I want to ask everyone to stop. Yes, something is clearly wrong, but I'm not a doctor and neither are most of you. It's not fair or helpful to label him with something like bipolar disorder or anything else without real expertise. For what it's worth, I don't actually feel like I'm in danger. In the past month, these were the only 3 incidents that happened. I don't think he's actively stalking me so much as he just knew my patterns. The bar we were at is my favorite spot, and it was a party of one of my closest friends, so it makes sense that he might have guessed I'd be there. When he showed up at my apartment, he knows what time I usually get home. The city tour is the only thing that might have been more intentional, but it could also have been a coincidence that triggered everything. Anyway, this is the end of it. Yesterday, Alex came over with his mom and one of his friends. At first, I didn't want to let him in, but he promised me that this would be the last time I ever saw him. I agreed, mostly because his mom and friend were there, and I figured it would be more awkward to argue on my doorstep. When we sat down, Alex admitted that he was going through a crisis. He told me he was mad at me, but he didn't know why. He said he doesn't like me, that I annoy him, but that he weirdly still loves me, which is why he went crazy when he saw me with someone else. He assured me there wasn't anyone else on his end either. He said he felt like he was going insane. He talked about how he feels judged for being older and not being able to give me the life he thinks I deserve. He said he hates his colleagues, hates his job, hates everything right now, and that everyone and everything annoys him. He told me he feels old and like he should want kids at this point in his life, but he doesn't, and that thought terrifies him. He said he just wants to be alone and not talk to anyone for a while. I didn't say much. I mostly just nodded because I didn't know what to say. After he was done, he told me he was leaving. He's on some kind of mental health leave from work, and he said he's leaving the country on Sunday. He's going to South America to spend time in nature and find himself. He thanked me for everything and said he was sorry for how he acted. Then he just got up, grabbed the few things he had left at my place, and walked out. His mom was inconsolable. She kept apologizing to me over and over, saying how embarrassed she was by his behavior. I told her it was okay and that she didn't need to apologize for him. She cried a lot, and his friend ended up driving her home after Alex left. I don't really know how I feel about all of this. Part of me is relieved that it's over. Part of me feels sad for him because he clearly doesn't know how to deal with everything he's feeling. Mostly though, I just feel tired. I'm glad he's taking steps to figure himself out, but it's not my responsibility anymore. Now on to the next story. Story 7. Sil harassed me for dating her brother after his divorce, then sent me a bridesmaid invitation as an apology. Turns out she was forced by her mom to save her dream wedding. Hello everyone. I'm 26 years old. Kyle, 34, and I are getting married soon and are expecting our first baby. We've been in a relationship for 7 months, and the baby was a surprise for both of us. The problem since the beginning of our relationship has been Kyle's sister, Bella, 36. Kyle and I were introduced by his younger brother, Victor, 27, during Kyle's divorce process. He had been separated from his wife for over a year, and I had just ended a long-term relationship. We started talking and eventually became friends with benefits. Neither of us wanted a relationship immediately. He had started treating his depression, and I had recently changed my medication for anxiety as well. Months later, his divorce was finalized, and 2 months after that, he asked me to be his girlfriend, and I accepted. 1 month into our relationship, he arranged a family dinner since I already knew his brother and mother. At the dinner, I met Bella, who began harassing me in every possible way. My accent, my clothes, my hair, trying to make me look stupid, all in a passive-aggressive manner. Both Kyle and his brother and mother defended me, but Bella got offended and left early. Since then, Kyle and I have had low contact with Bella. She is still best friends with Kyle's ex-wife and, being the control freak she is, thinks Kyle shouldn't have divorced his ex. To me, this was super bizarre. For months, she said I was Kyle's AP and the reason for his divorce. She told everyone in our social circle, and it eventually reached us, which is ridiculous. Kyle ended things with his ex due to personal issues. There was no infidelity. We didn't even know each other when he started the divorce process, and I was still with my ex. This rumor persisted for about 4 months despite our denials. She even spread the rumor to their extended family. It spread so far that it reached my grandparents. The situation became so complicated that Kyle's mother, a woman of impeccable reputation, had to refute the lies her daughter had created. After this, we decided to cut her off completely, avoiding places where she would be. Even so, she continues to lie about me, claiming I cheated on my ex, he cheated on me, that I told Kyle to cut off his ex completely. I never commented on his relationship with his ex, and that I wanted to be with Victor, his long-term girlfriend, as my best friend. She calls me promiscuous and says I'm only after Kyle's family money. We have similar financial situations. The worst thing she said about me was that if even my mother abandoned me, no man wouldn't abandon me. My mother has schizophrenia and borderline personality disorder. My father divorced her after she stopped treatment and tried to kill me, and yes, she abandoned me after that. I am pregnant, and we recently found out. I'm not yet 12 weeks along, but Kyle told his brother and best friend. His best friend told his wife, who then told Bella. Bella always hosts events, and at the last one, she made sure her friends told Kyle's ex Kyle didn't want kids before, and now Bella and Kyle's ex are spreading rumors that I'm just a rebound and that my relationship with Kyle won't last. And when his ex finds someone new, Kyle will crawl back to her. And now I'm afraid that this might be true. I can't take it anymore. I'm exhausted. Kyle and I hardly talk to his family, and still she doesn't stop. She wants me to disappear and for Kyle to leave me. All I really want is for my baby to grow up in a healthy environment. I don't want a broken home like the one I had, and this petty woman won't even let me try. I am not a home-wrecking monster. I just fell in love with someone who loves me back. So how do I deal with this? What should I do? I don't want to cause more trouble. I don't want to be what she says I am. Date 1. I'm 26F, engaged, and our relationship is pretty recent, but we're expecting a baby, 9 weeks. I had to switch my meds for GAD because of the pregnancy on doctor's advice, and my crazy SIL has been making my life hell. After a rumor from my SIL, everyone's calling me a rebound, and I'm starting to believe it. I've never been the other woman, but I met my future husband in person during his divorce, and we got involved. Even so, it feels like I wrecked his 12-year marriage, like I'm some homewrecker who ruined everything. His ex is beautiful, elegant, has everything figured out, and she's one of the best in her field. How can I not feel insecure? I don't know how I didn't feel insecure before. He has a career, he's financially stable, he's got everything sorted out, and I'm a mess. I want to be a pediatrician, but I don't know how to do that now that I'm pregnant. I don't know if I should drop out of med school. I haven't got it together. I'd never marry me, let alone have a family. Why would anyone have a kid with me? My mom has BPD and schizophrenia. She almost killed me when I was 4, and then she ran off and never talked to me again. What if I turn out like her? I'm scared every day of getting PPD and not being able to love my baby, not being able to take care of him, afraid I might try to hurt him. Sometimes I think it'd be better to give my baby to my fiancé, and maybe he could raise him with his ex. They'd be the perfect family, and I could disappear like my mom did. Then I hate myself for thinking that, but I love my fiancé. I love my baby. I hate myself because I can't tell my fiancé this. I'm scared again of being a rebound and him finally realizing I'm a rebound and he doesn't want me anymore. Not me or the baby, or worse, he'll take my baby and go back to his ex. I didn't feel like this before. I've always been anxious but never this insecure. I don't know what's happening to me. Additional info. OP on why her fiancé got a divorce. It's kind of complicated because it's basically about my fiancé's mental health. He told me he married her because it was the right thing to do, not because he loved her. They'd known each other forever and ended up getting married really young. It took him a long time to realize this because he was dealing with depression and thought that lack of feeling was just part of being depressed. During his treatment, he figured out he didn't love his ex, that he was just going through the motions to meet his dad's expectations. He had a really abusive relationship with his dad. He thought it was only fair to both him and his ex to ask for a divorce. OP on the timeline of her relationship with her fiancé. We've been officially together for 8 months, and a year in total. We talked about marriage when we started living together, but it was a plan for a year from then. I found out about the pregnancy while doing some tests, and then he proposed because it was already in our plans, but the pregnancy just wasn't. He was married for 12 years, but I think he was with his ex for like 16 years. Update 2. Hey everyone. I posted here a while back, and it helped me rethink some past situations. Now I need advice on my current situation. I have a terrible relationship with my SIL. She's best friends with my fiancé's ex and hates that I'm ruining her best friend's life. There was never any cheating or flirting while my fiancé was with his ex. It got to the point where I had to contact a lawyer to get her to stop harassing and verbally abusing me. After the cease and desist letter, she was quiet for a while. Last weekend, she sent me a box with gifts like drinks, food, and some makeup, plus an invitation to be one of her bridesmaids. She wrote a long letter asking if I would accept this honor as an apology for everything she did. The problem is, I'm actually considering accepting to see if we can at least coexist without pointless fights. On Saturday night, I showed the invite to my fiancé and said I was thinking about it, and it led to a huge argument. My fiancé holds a big grudge against his sister and really doesn't want to talk to her ever again. But I want our baby to grow up in a big happy family, even if it means making some sacrifices. He said he wasn't invited to be a groomsman and thinks it's just an excuse for SIL to call me. Kyle ended up saying he's tired of my naivety because it always ends up hurting us since I assume the best of people. I went to my stepmom's after the fight and didn't know what to do. I came back home Sunday night after getting advice from my dad and stepmom. I tried to ignore it and move on, but just the fact that she sent something caused a huge fight between my fiancé and me. I want to resolve this in the best way possible. I'm starting my second trimester, and everything feels more difficult and exhausting. Kyle and I are both tired lately, and my pregnancy hasn't been the easiest. We're working extra, dealing with the stress of parenthood and marriage. I don't want the fact that we want to handle things differently to cause problems between us. I really want to create a space where my baby can at least visit their grandma peacefully, even if my SIL is there. But my fiancé is ready to cut off his mom if necessary. So how can I handle this situation? Edit. Some people here have been calling me toxic and saying my fiancé should leave me. I know I messed up, but I love him with all my heart. I'm going to apologize as soon as he gets home. We've never fought like this before, and I didn't realize I did something so bad. I never meant to hurt him or prioritize anyone over him. I just thought I could make things work because I never had a typical family, and I feel like I ruined what he had with his family by being with him. Sorry to everyone who's disgusted by me. If he wants to break up, I'll leave without complaining. I feel a tightness in my chest and sick to my stomach thinking I hurt someone I love. Additional info. More info on the family from OOP. We always have dinner with his younger brother and his girlfriend because I've been friends with them for a long time, but his mom refuses to come if my SIL isn't invited, so she never shows up. She visited me once to check on me and the baby. Even so, he seems sad when he talks about it because they had this tradition for years. He never said I'm the problem, but it feels like everything changed when I came along. Like if it was any other woman with him, it wouldn't be this way. Some comments. Comment 1. You absolutely should not accept. If you got to the point where you had a cease and desist issued on this person, you need to remain no contact. People like this absolutely do not change. This is 100% a trap, and you would be an enormous idiot to fall for it. Edit. People need to understand in the thread that asking OP to be her bridesmaid was a violation of a cease and desist order. Stop telling her to respond. She absolutely should not respond. Comment 2. You need to let your dreams of a big happy family go. You should honor your husband's wishes and follow his lead with his sister. Trying to achieve a relationship with her will lead to problems between you and your husband. She's toxic and can't be trusted. Move on. Comment 3. Sometimes family is the people who are always there for us rather than those connected by blood. OP comments after reading others' replies. Reading the comments made me realize how blind I've been about everything. My SIL's apology was everything I wanted in a way, hoping it would get me accepted into the family and make everything better. I never wanted to disrespect my fiancé or his boundaries with his family. He misses the family get-togethers on weekends with his mom, brother, sister, and in-laws, and I feel like I've ruined everything and just wanted to fix things. I love him so much and just want a good pregnancy experience. Yeah, I'm anxious, had to adjust my meds for the pregnancy, and that plus hormones has made everything weird. I'm going to talk to my fiancé and probably my lawyer about the apology letter to see if anything can be done. I don't want to deal with any harassment again. I went to my parents' place because a lot of hurtful things were said, and I needed some space and he did too. Update 3. Hey everyone. Great news. I'm going to be a mom to a baby boy. I like the names Lead and Bo, and my fiancé likes Theodore and Gustav. I have to admit, I'm really loving Theodore too. I want to thank you all and clarify a few things. Thanks for the advice. Some of it hurt when I first posted, but all of it was helpful in some way. First off, I'm not a spoiled and childish girl forcing my will on my fiancé. His sister has always had problems with me, not with him, so I thought it was something I had to handle. But as you all said, she's his sister and they need to deal with it or not. And yes, I'm an extremely anxious person who's been in therapy for years. I suffered abuse from my mother. My only family growing up was my dad. When my dad finally returned to his hometown and we could have a family beyond the two of us, I was essayed by someone trusted by that family. I've been working on this for a long time, but many may not understand how much this has impacted my pregnancy and choices lately. It feels like the problem is me, that I don't deserve love and family, and I'm so scared my son will have a similar experience that I can't stop thinking about it. But as many of you said, my family now is me, my baby, and my husband. I also have my dad, stepmom, grandparents, little brother Bill, Victor, and friends by my side. So, the real update, the night I posted, I talked to my husband. He came home late from a shift and then went out drinking with Victor. I apologized for meddling in his relationship with his sister, for thinking I knew her better than he did, and for causing unnecessary conflict. I also apologized for putting the fantasy of a big happy family above his feelings. I was shocked by his reaction because he cried, and he's usually very stoic. He apologized for saying he was tired of me and said it wasn't true at all. But it's hard to see the person you love most putting themselves in a position that hurts them just to please someone extremely narcissistic. We apologized and spent the rest of the night talking. I asked if he needed a break from me because many of you said he should leave me, and he said that never crossed his mind, which was a huge relief. I had already imagined packing up to go to my parents' house. We decided to politely decline the invitation, but my fiancé took a day off to handle the situation with his family. I didn't go because it's too stressful, and I'm still in the early stages of pregnancy with 5 to 6 months to go. So what came out of the family talk? My MIL was the one behind the invitation. She told my fiancé that she wouldn't attend the wedding or pay for it if the whole family wasn't there, and that SIL should face the consequences of her actions. SIL could afford the wedding herself, but it would be a huge hit to her savings because it's going to be exorbitantly expensive, and having their mom not show up would be bad because SIL is a VP at her parents' company, and many big contracts will be at the wedding. She needs to keep up appearances. So SIL thought inviting me as a bridesmaid and writing a heartfelt note would soften me up. And yes, my fiancé's ex would be her maid of honor, and my fiancé wasn't asked to be a groomsman because the ex didn't want to see him with me. He would have been invited as a regular guest. So MIL is no longer paying for the wedding, but she will attend. My fiancé, Victor, and his fiancée, and I will not go to the wedding. Now I'm getting messages from unknown numbers calling me petty because SIL was going to honor me at her wedding, and I ruined her dream wedding. It's funny because it's a 36-year-old woman fighting with me because she wanted my fiancé to marry her best friend. She can't get over a divorce that's not even hers. Good luck to her fiancé. I think I've realized she'll never directly attack her brother because of their mom, so she hurts me to get to him. Some other things have come up and we're going to try to distance ourselves more from her, especially with the baby on the way, because Bill said she has fertility issues and had a mental breakdown when she found out we were expecting. He said SIL seems to be jealous that we got pregnant so soon into our relationship. She had dreams of giving the first grandchild to the family since she's the oldest. Who knew a surprise baby could cause so much chaos? Thanks to everyone for listening and sharing your experiences. See you. Okay, no baby called Leet. You won. I sent a message to Kyle about giving up on the name. He is the happiest man right now. Now on to the next story. Story 8. I'm vegetarian, but told my boyfriend that I might eat meat during my Japan work trip. He instead cried and broke up with me because I wouldn't eat meat with him for years. I, 34F, have been vegetarian for about 4 years. My boyfriend, 34M, is a meat lover. He is an excellent cook and he loves steak and other types of meat. He's never asked me to start eating meat. I have never asked him to stop eating meat. I don't care what he eats, it's 100% his and everyone else's choice. I don't talk about being vegetarian, don't promote it, and I try to figure out my own food if I need to so I don't inconvenience others. Sometimes it's hard to find a restaurant with a vegetarian choice besides a side salad, so I'll do the legwork to find a restaurant everyone will like. My choice to be vegetarian hasn't seemed to be an issue or cause any big inconvenience, but maybe I'm wrong. When I went on vacation with my boyfriend's family for a week, his mom revised her risotto recipe to use veggie broth instead of chicken broth so I could eat it. I didn't ask. I think my boyfriend suggested it to her. I was really appreciative. When my boyfriend and I went on vacation for a week, we both looked up restaurants that would have a veg option for me. We mostly ate at seafood places because of where we were vacationing, and I managed to find a veggie burger or something like that at most places. My take: I have a work trip to Japan coming up soon. I told my boyfriend I was considering eating meat during the week so I can fully experience the culture and food. That means sushi, wagyu, ramen, things like that. I'm not sure if I can actually get myself to eat meat during the trip because I think I'll feel guilty about it. My choice to be veg is because I feel bad for how animals are raised, treated, farmed, and the nature of how they're usually killed. I know I can get humanely raised meat, but I choose to abstain altogether. I miss sushi and steak the most, but again I abstain. My boyfriend's take: he is upset that I would consider breaking vegetarianism for this week-long trip, but I wouldn't consider breaking vegetarianism to have a steak with him. It makes him feel like he's not worth it. It makes him feel like the trip and the coworkers I'm going on the trip with are more important than him. I know he bonds over sharing food with people. He likes to cook for other people and he's never been able to cook a steak for me, and we've never been able to share a steak dinner together. We've gone to steak houses before, but I just eat whatever else they have. It's not the same as us both enjoying a steak. He also said that all the effort to accommodate me being vegetarian seems like a waste now. His mom going out of her way to make the risotto without chicken broth. Looking up restaurants where I can eat something besides a salad. Him cooking stir-fry or other dishes and leaving the meat separate on the flat-top grill until I serve myself the veggies, and then after that, he combines it all together with the meat. Things like that. Me not being able to enjoy the best shrimp he's ever had on our vacation together. He was to the point of tears over us not being able to eat a steak together. I understand it would make him feel bad that I'd consider eating meat on the trip, but I haven't offered to eat a steak with him. I feel terrible for making him feel this way and making him feel less important or less worthy. I apologized for this and apologized for making him feel this way. I told him that's not it. It's not that he's not worthy, that this trip is probably once in a lifetime, and I'm afraid that if I have a steak here at home with him, I'm concerned it'll become a slippery slope. I told him I don't want to stop being vegetarian. How do I navigate this? Edit. When he told me how he felt about this, I listened, apologized for making him feel so poorly, and validated him. I understand why he feels bad and I should have thought about how this might go before I said it, that I'm considering eating meat on the trip out loud during the conversation. I thanked him for telling me how he was feeling and thanked him for telling me how important that would be to him. So I offered to have a steak with him, and I also let him know I don't want it to become a regular thing because I prefer to stay vegetarian or mostly vegetarian, I guess since having steak with him wouldn't be vegetarian. I know sharing meals together is important to him. It's also important to me. What I did not know, however, is that he was so badly wanting to have a steak together where I eat it too. When he cooks meat, I always comment on how good it looks and smells, and he has said before, "I wish you could taste this." In hindsight, that comment from him was probably hinting at him wishing I'd offer to eat a steak with him. He hasn't asked me, "Hey, can you please eat a steak with me tonight?" Or, "Would you ever consider eating meat with me or for me?" If he asked me those questions and I said no, and then I said I'm considering eating meat in Japan, that would be a different conversation. I haven't rejected him that way, but I also haven't offered to eat steak with him either. Until this conversation came up, I didn't know this specific thing was something he wanted so badly. I thought because he eats meat as much as he wants and we eat many meals together that he was satisfied in this area. We've never been to a vegetarian restaurant together. I try to make my vegetarianism as small as possible, I don't want it to be a thing. I bring food to his house. I get a side salad or kids' grilled cheese at restaurants that don't have any other veg options. I don't make it a big deal. I completely understand why he feels bad. That's not what this post is about. I'm just wondering how to best move forward. I also just told him I was considering eating meat on that trip without thinking about it first. I didn't think about how he'd feel. He'd feel slighted. I didn't think about how I'd feel. I'd feel guilty and anxious about the thought of actually going through with eating meat, etc. When we talked about it, I brought up that I'll have to slowly incorporate meat into my diet leading up to us having a steak together or to going to Japan if I choose to eat meat on that trip. I know that's a thing. Considering how anxious I feel about actually thinking more about going through with eating meat, I think it's best for me to just not eat meat on the trip. But now I still have to figure out how to address the topic with my boyfriend because now I know he wants me to eat steak with him and I offered to do that for him. Thanks for all the feedback, everyone. Update. October 30th, 2024. Here's what happened. This is going to be really long. During the 2 weeks leading up to me leaving for Japan, we got into a couple big arguments, and about 5 days before I left, he told me he can't do it anymore. He can't take all the arguing. He's exhausted. I don't take responsibility for the things I'm doing wrong, and all I do is focus on what he's doing wrong. I don't talk enough about the things that I need to fix about myself. I don't talk about my insecurities enough, and I don't take enough responsibility for the ways I communicate poorly and how that makes us fight. A little more context about the arguments. Argument 1, we had a talk one Sunday about how I was feeling. He could tell I was down and I told him I was feeling lonely. He asked how else I'd been feeling lately and I shared that I've also been conflicted about some work stuff and some family and friend stuff. We didn't talk about the loneliness, just about the other things. He went into solution mode and was emotionless about it. It wasn't what I needed, but I went through that process with him first since he seemed determined to get to the bottom of it. Throughout the discussion, a couple things rubbed me wrong way. First, he told me he doesn't think I actually feel that way. And second, there was no empathy. When he was done leading that discussion, he asked me how I feel. I told him poorly. The first thing I shared is that it's disheartening when he asks me how I feel. I tell him how I feel, and then he replies with, "I don't think you feel that way." This isn't the first time this happened. Other times when he's asked me how I feel or what I think about something, he's told me, "I don't believe you. I don't think you feel that way. It doesn't make sense to feel that way. I think you feel like that because of XYZ, not because of the reason I gave him." The second thing I shared is that I would have liked him to not only focus on analyzing the situation and to say something empathetic like, "Babe, that sucks you feel so lonely. I'm sorry to hear that. What's going on?" I told him I appreciated the solution mode discussion and that helped, and I also needed some empathy. He got quiet and his body language changed. I asked him if he's upset. He firmly replied, "Yeah, I'm upset." I asked why and he said because I'm only focusing on the things he did wrong. He tried so hard to handle the situation well and he did everything else right, but all I told him is what he did wrong. I reminded him he did other things right and I referenced back to other conversations where he has shared a grievance with me and I haven't given him what he wanted in the moment. He wanted more empathy or more softness, for example, and he's quick to point it out and tell me what I'm not doing right and what he needs from me. This conversation kind of ended after that. I brought it up again a week or so later and he said, "Sorry for not handling it well." Argument 2. He told me he was making plans to watch a horror movie with his friend, Aaron. They periodically watch movies together, just the two of them, and that's fine by me. However, this made me feel insecure this time because I don't feel like he gets excited to make plans with me, really tries to make or initiate plans with me besides just hanging out at home or something, or saying we should go to the brunch place we like nearly every weekend. Anyway, I got really quiet and started tearing up in the moment, and I was trying to process how I felt and figure out if it's worth bringing up, or if I just need to handle it on my own, and not tell him how I was feeling because I know it's an insecurity of mine. He asked me what's wrong and I decided this is benign enough to talk about. I told him this made me feel really insecure. He told me it doesn't make sense for me to feel that way, I shouldn't feel that way, and he's never done anything to make me feel that way. I explained myself and explained why he loves horror movies and I want him to want to share that with me and I feel insecure about it. If the rest of our relationship was healthy, this probably would not have made me feel poorly, but I had been feeling not really wanted for a while, so this kind of tipped the scale. He persisted that it doesn't make sense for me to feel this way and listed reasons why I shouldn't feel that way. Eventually he said, "Okay." And he understood what I was saying. He asked me if I felt hurt, and I said, "Yeah, I think so." Then he wanted a chance to say his perspective. He went right into how it doesn't make sense for me to feel that way, why I shouldn't feel that way, and that he's never done anything to make me feel that way. I got so frustrated because that contradicted what I thought we just resolved when he said he understood my feelings. He got upset because I was bothered about it again after I just told him I felt hurt. He said he wanted softness from me and I wasn't receiving him well. We went back and forth after that, me trying to explain why his responses to me were bothering me and him insisting the same things again. It never got resolved. Argument 3. I was leaving for Japan on a Friday night. My flight was at like 7 p.m. That same day, he was going to drive about an hour away to spend the weekend with his best friend. We talked a few weeks prior and I said I wasn't going to work that day so I could prepare for the trip, and we agreed we'd hang out that day but never firmed up any plans or times. We went out to dinner and I asked him what time he was planning to leave on Friday to drive to his friend's house. It was a genuine question with no feelings or anything attached. He replied, "Between 3 o'clock and 5 p.m. I don't know what I was expecting him to say, but when he told me 3 to 5, I realized I felt bad because I wanted him to want to spend that time with me leading up to my flight and maybe take me to the airport or something. I never expressed this to him previously. We didn't talk about it yet. But in that moment, I told him I felt unconsidered and I wished he would have considered me. I screwed up because I should have told him I wanted to hang out leading up to my flight instead of saying I felt unconsidered. But at the same time, I don't know if I would have felt comfortable telling him that because it would interfere with his friend time and change his plans. I'm not sure how he would have received that, maybe well, maybe not. He got really upset. I tried explaining why I felt unconsidered, and immediately his body language changed. He pushed himself back in his chair a little, made the smirk, scoffed, and started interrupting me. I got frustrated and heated and told him not to interrupt me when I was trying to explain my feelings, and I can see he's about to get defensive. I was definitely triggered by his change in demeanor and his attempt to interrupt me. I thought to myself, not again, not this time. Stand up for yourself and make sure you get to share your feelings. He got even more upset that I assumed he was going to get defensive, and he got upset I wouldn't let him interrupt me. He said he did consider me. His plan to leave between 3 and 5 wasn't firm, and if I just let him interrupt me, this big fight wouldn't have happened. He said my feelings weren't appropriate because they were based on an incorrect assumption. The assumption I made was that he didn't consider me and that his plans to leave between 3 and 5 were firm. He told me he just pulled that time frame out of the air and it wasn't firm. He didn't have dinner plans with his friend yet, so it was all flexible. When he explained himself, I thanked him for explaining it. I apologized for assuming he didn't consider me, and I told him I see his perspective. He was really upset with me though, so he explained again why what I did wasn't okay. It wasn't okay that, 1, I assumed he didn't consider me. 2, I said, I wish you would have considered me. 3, I called out his body language. And 4, I assumed he was going to get defensive. Side note. Me saying, I wish you would to him is a no-no because it makes him feel awful, so I have worked hard to not use that phrase with him. I failed this time. I explained that those were my feelings based on the information I had at the time, and even though they were based on wrong information, it's still okay for me to tell him how I feel first, and then he can set the record straight. Then he can say something like, oh, these plans aren't actually firm. Sorry you didn't feel considered. The plans are flexible. And I can say, okay, sorry for assuming that. I'd like to hang out up until I go to the airport. That didn't work for him. He insisted that if I just let him interrupt me, none of this would have happened. I ended up reiterating his point and apologizing 3 times. Also, over the summer something similar happened with the roles reversed. He assumed something incorrect and he was upset about it, and I interrupted him to tell him what the correct information was, and he told me I need to hear him out first before I chime in with the correct information because his feelings are still his feelings and they should be heard. It's hard to do, but I agreed. So I brought up that conversation as justification for why I should be allowed to tell him how I feel before he interrupts me. He still wanted to interrupt me because my assumption was wrong. Then he got upset that I changed my stance so quickly when he told me the plans were flexible. I apologized for assuming he didn't consider me and I told him, "Okay, I understand, that works for me." He said he feels crazy when this happens. When I feel bad about something, he explains his side and then I say, "Okay, I understand." And I let my original feelings go and I side with him. He said that I'm gaslighting him because it seems like a big deal to me. Then he gets worked up and then I back down. I tried to explain that it's normal and healthy for someone to be told new information and then take that information into consideration and change their approach. It's healthy for me to hear him out and say, "Yeah, I made an assumption and I shouldn't feel bad about this anymore." Anyway, he was really upset with me all night. The whole fight was because of my poor communication. When we woke up the next morning, I thought he was going to apologize to me. Apparently he thought I was going to apologize to him. That's when he told me it's over. Now on to the next story. Story 9. Daughter didn't invite me to her wedding and chose her mom's BF to walk her down the aisle. This is about my daughter, Samantha, Sam, 24F. But I need to explain our family dynamics before getting into the reason for making this post. I am 51, got married to my ex-wife, Judith, F49. When I was 24, we had known each other since we were kids and had always been together. Judith came from a very broken household and spent most of her days at my place. My parents treated her like family and we gradually got close. I had always been in love with her ever since I was a kid. Both of us came from very humble backgrounds and built what we have from scratch. At 24, we got married. I was a normal trucker. I didn't have the money to afford college and I wanted to make a living as early as I could. Judith didn't go to college either. She worked as a waitress in a local restaurant. Between the two of us, we were comfortable. It wasn't as though we were starving, but we weren't extremely well off either. Then Judith got pregnant. She decided to quit her job and focus on raising the baby. It was a financial strain for us, but this was the best arrangement possible. We didn't have money for daycare at the time, and I was earning more than her anyway, so it made sense for her to stay home and for me to bring in the money for the family. I changed companies, got promoted, and had a bump in my pay, so by the time Samantha turned 3, we were quite comfortable. Things were better back then, I won't deny it. The economy was in better shape, so we could afford a lot more on our limited income than anyone with the same or similar paycheck can today. We were lucky because despite being tight, it was mostly smooth sailing for us. The issues started when Samantha started school. Judith began getting bored at home and said she wanted to start working again. We had a long discussion and finally agreed that I would cut back on some hours and help around the house more, and she would get a job. This suited me because I had been working myself to death for all those years that Judith was at home. I worked 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, so the minute I came home, I was beat. I was very happy with the change because it gave me time with my daughter, and the new arrangement worked beautifully. At first, I came home at a reasonable time and could spend time with Sam. I helped her with homework, and it felt like I was finally bonding with my daughter after all these years. Judith seemed happy with the change too. She was a little aloof at home, but I understood that her life had been within the 4 walls of the house for years and years, and this was her time to go out and catch a breather. I was more than happy to pick up the slack so she could have time to herself. Little did I know that the entire time I was busy bonding with my daughter, Judith was busy looking for a way out of the situation. When she got a job after all those years, it wasn't at her former workplace. It was at a nice cafe that was frequented by affluent people. I think being around that kind of crowd made her look down upon me and our living situation. Mind you, we weren't poor, but we also weren't loaded or bathing in luxury. She started pressing me to work more hours and make more money, but I didn't want to because I didn't see the need. I would much rather spend time with my daughter and wife than slave away for a few extra dollars that we could very honestly do without. I don't know why or when it happened, but Judith gradually started resenting me and Sam. It all came to a huge blow a few months later when Sam was 7. Judith came home late, drunk as hell. She had developed an alcohol problem, and no amount of support or counseling could help her out of it. She came home, and by then I had lost my patience with her. For a long while, it had started feeling like I was a single parent. Judith used to come home late, and I was the one who had to do almost all the chores. I helped Sam with her schoolwork, made her braids, and got her ready for school. There were days when Sam didn't even miss her mother. She had become so used to her absence. So that night was the final straw for me. I told Judith that she needed to get her act straight and be a mother to our daughter because I was exhausted from playing both dad and mom to her. That's when she dropped the bomb. She told me that she wanted a divorce and that she was having an affair with someone. The next few days were a blur. I won't bore you with the details. She met someone at the cafe. They hit it off and they'd been having an affair for the past year. The guy, Steven, now I'm 60, was loaded, and she left Sam and me for him. It hurt like hell, but at least I knew my daughter was safe and that was all that mattered. She did not fight me for custody. She didn't even want Samantha. I just told her she was allowed to do whatever the hell she wanted. But I didn't want her influencing Sam. That worked perfectly for her because her new boyfriend wasn't good with kids anyway. It was as though she had flipped and become someone else altogether. She was not the woman I married, and she was not the mother of my daughter. Since then, it has been only Samantha and me. Judith breezes in and breezes out as and when she wishes with expensive gifts for Sam to compensate for what she could never do emotionally and physically. But the entire job of raising our daughter fell on me, and I tried to do it as well as I could. It was tough, but I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. Now on to the main issue. Sam has been in my care since her mother left. It wasn't ideal for either of us, but it was what it was. I tried to be there for her as much as I could. I never missed a single school meeting, didn't miss her sports events, and drove her to most parties. I tried my best. I knew that I couldn't do much for her financially, so I tried to be a parent and be there for her. I tried to be her friend. I tried to create an open environment at home. I'm not saying that I haven't made mistakes, but I've always tried not to and tried to do justice as Sam's only parent. Sam, however, loved being with Judith. Judith married into money, and lots of it, so she used to compensate with gifts and extravagant things that I couldn't afford. It made me feel bad because I knew I could never give my daughter what Judith was giving her. But at the end of the day, Sam was happy, and that's what mattered the most to me. However, I didn't realize that somehow all this was influencing Sam poorly. She preferred her mother over me because she valued the material things that she got as gifts more than the everyday life that she and I shared together. Initially, I let it go because she was a kid and any kid would love her shiny new toys more than everyday things. What I didn't realize, however, was that this was becoming a part of her personality and that this would carry on into adulthood. When she turned 18, she told me that she wanted to be a hairdresser, so I enrolled her in a cosmetology course. She worked really hard and I was very proud of her. She got her degree and started working very soon. Ever since then, she would try and avoid meeting me. I didn't think it was avoidance at first. I just believed her when she said she was busy and I respected that she was starting out her job and the first few months can be rough. So I cut her some slack. I missed her. I missed just the two of us hanging out together, but I didn't express it to her because I didn't want her to feel guilty. She was her own person and she had every right to live a good life. What else had I worked so hard for? But gradually, it began to dawn on me that she was deliberately creating distance between us. I tried to reach out a couple of times and even asked her if I had done something wrong, but she never disclosed anything to me. We weren't estranged, but we also weren't very close. I guess that's part of growing up. You drift away from your parents. It just hurt me a lot because she was all I had. I never dated after my divorce from Judith. I was too busy taking care of Sam and working that I never found the time to date. I also didn't want to create a complex family dynamic and didn't want her to have any resentment or complaints towards me. She was my only priority and I was happy with the way my life was. My duty to my daughter was much more important to me than the loneliness I felt. However, when she started growing distant, I just felt as though I had been left behind and that everyone had started new lives, but I was still there. All this while, I didn't know she was back in touch with her mother and had begun preferring her over me. Well, Sam is 24 now and she got married 2 days ago. In the days leading up to the wedding, a lot of drama happened, and I acted in a way that was very uncharacteristic of me. A few weeks before the wedding is all paid for by Sam and her husband, Mark. Sam told me that while I was a very important part of the wedding, she did not want to do the walking down the aisle thing. That hurt me a lot because I had been looking forward to this moment all my life. I tried not to react poorly and just asked her why she wanted to remove this from her wedding, and she told me she felt this was a very patriarchal tradition and she did not believe in it. I told her that I respected her wishes and that I would be there for her in whatever capacity she wanted me to be. 2 days later, to my absolute horror, I found out that there was in fact going to be a walking down the aisle thing, but not with me. Her mother's boyfriend, the guy she cheated on me with, was going to be walking her down the aisle. I wasn't supposed to find out. It was an accidental slip-up by Mark, but the damage was done. I asked Samantha if that was true, but she denied it. I kept pestering her and she finally admitted that yes. She had asked Steven to walk her down the aisle because he wasn't a middle-class piece of junk like me. I don't think I've ever felt as bad as I did in that moment. Even my wife's infidelity didn't hurt me as much. Mark tried to take the blame on himself because even he realized that she had said a lot. He took me aside and told me that his family was a bunch of prudes, and it was only to assimilate with them that Sam had asked Steven to walk her down the aisle. But I was done. I thanked Mark for taking her side, but I also told him that I would not be attending the wedding at all. He said that would hurt Sam a lot because she loves me, but I said that I could not stand to be disrespected by her any longer. I think Mark understood where I was coming from and didn't ask me to budge or change my mind. I think I downed an entire bottle of whiskey that night. I was miserable and don't remember much of what happened. I blocked Samantha everywhere and told her that there was no relationship between me and her from now on. I don't know if she responded to that, and I don't even have the heart to unblock and check because I feel she doesn't love me at all, and it doesn't matter to her that I'm not a part of her life. That was the last I spoke to her. Samantha got married yesterday. I didn't attend, obviously, but I got a call from her early in the morning and she was hysterical. She called from her friend's phone, which is how I could talk to her. She was sobbing continuously on the call, and it took me a long time to even understand what she was saying. She just kept saying that her mom had screwed up and she needed me there to salvage the situation. I asked her what had happened and she told me that Judith showed up drunk, and by drunk I mean sloshed, and she was interacting with Mark's parents. Now, the issue is that Mark's family is very prim and proper, and they do not appreciate any kind of crass behavior. Apparently, that was the reason I was not allowed to walk her down the aisle, because I wasn't sophisticated enough. Anyway, so Judith came in drunk and caused a huge scene, which has led to a situation where Mark's parents are saying that they will not be attending the wedding. Sam tried to tell me what exactly Judith had done in between sobs, but I couldn't understand her and I was frankly not very interested. She had hurt me beyond repair and there was no going back this time. I was done being her doormat and I was done running around after her and cleaning her mess when she was so embarrassed by me that she took away my right to walk her down the aisle. I told her that I was sorry she was going through this, but at this point in moving forward, I could not offer her anything more than words. She had chosen her family and now she had to live with it. I told her she was worried about me embarrassing her and was confident about her upper-class mom. But that has ultimately backfired and she only has herself to blame. I told her that I would not be coming to her rescue and that she was free to do whatever she wanted to. I will not lie, it killed me to say this. It felt as though I had ripped my own heart out of my chest. But I had to do this. I had to enforce my boundaries. I couldn't let her step on me. I had done everything I could for her. I had lived my entire life trying to make her better, and she only saw me as something to use and feel disgusted and ashamed about. I cannot take it anymore. When I told her I would not be helping her, she started screaming into the phone, telling me that if I didn't save her this time, I was no father of hers. I just responded that I thought I was no father of yours anyway, given how you have been treating me, and I disconnected the call. She called me again from the same number 15 minutes later, but I did not respond. I was crying. I don't remember the last time I cried so much. I wanted to be there for my girl so much, but she had taken my heart out of my chest and trampled on it as if it were nothing, and my self-respect did not allow it anymore. But now I'm feeling that maybe I was too harsh with her. I should have gone. I don't know what has happened. I haven't reached out to anyone and Sam hasn't reached out to me either. I think maybe I was in the wrong for abandoning her when she needed me. I am just so confused and now I don't know what to do or how to set things right. Edit. A lot of people were asking me why I had such beef with Judith after all these years. Well, if your heart has never been ripped from your chest, spat on, and tossed aside like garbage, you wouldn't know. I know that she and Steven have stayed together for 15 years now and that it has been a long time and maybe they are the real deal, but guess what? I don't care. I don't care if they are star-crossed lovers destined to be together. What I care about is that she chose to cheat on me and be secretive about the entire thing rather than do this the mature way. What I care about is that she stopped being a mother to our daughter, so I had to raise her myself because her new man was giving her the promise of a luxurious life. And what I care about is that she used her boyfriend's money to steal my daughter from me, and she was successful in doing so. It is because of Judith that I live a miserable life, and no, I will not be the bigger person and forgive her for it. Never in a million years. Call me petty, call me crazy, or call me a jerk. It doesn't matter. I gave my life to her and I got nothing in return. And to all those who think she and Steven are a love match, it is far from true. And that is exactly what led to the entire scene at Sam's wedding. Judith arrived drunk out of her mind, and before going to meet Sam, she went and greeted Mark's family. Samantha did not know she had arrived and only learned about the situation when the damage had already been done. In a drunken state, Judith started flirting with Mark's dad in front of Steven and Mark's mom. It was apparently very embarrassing, and she was practically throwing herself at him. At first everyone tried to ignore it, but then things got out of hand quickly. Steven came over to salvage the situation, and he had to physically pull Judith off of Mark's dad. Judith was screaming at the top of her lungs, telling Steven to let her go. He was embarrassed too and kept apologizing, but a huge scene had already been created by then. This is when Sam entered, but this was not all. Steven and Judith then started fighting, as in Judith started the fight. She accused Steven of being a hypocrite and said that if he was allowed to have affairs with other women, she should also be given the same liberty. Steven's jaw dropped. He asked her to keep quiet, but she didn't listen, and it ended up being a huge verbal blowout between the two of them. From what I heard, and by that I mean what Judith revealed to the entire wedding party in her drunken stupor, is that their relationship has been having a lot of issues. Steven keeps cheating on her with multiple women, and she knows all about it but tries to act nonchalant or ignorant because at this point she cannot afford to break up with him. He has given her a life of comfort and luxury, and she cannot trade that at this point, which is why she keeps tolerating his infidelity. She has also been pushing him to get married, but he doesn't want to. God knows why. Whenever some kind of fight breaks out between them, he placates her by giving her gifts and also by buying stuff for Samantha. Judith unloaded all of her marital issues right there. Steven kept telling her that this was neither the place nor the time for them to talk about their issues, but to no avail. She went on an entire rampage, beating his chest, grabbing his hair, and the like. The situation was so bad that had she not stopped, they would have had to call the police. Steven has marks on his face from all the scratching, and in his defense, he pushed her. She was so drunk that she fell on a few chairs and on top of a guest from Mark's side. All this drama is happening at the wedding venue where almost all the guests have arrived. The entire spectacle was seen by everyone. Mark's parents are embarrassed to the core, and they are on the verge of walking out because they could not deal with this humiliation. They had a lot of friends and family attending the wedding, and to see all this family nonsense was something they just could not fathom. It was at this point that Samantha called me and asked me to come and rescue her, and I said no. By the time we had spoken and cut the call, Steven and Mark's parents had left. Mark ran after them and tried to get them to come back, but to no avail. A few of the guests from Mark's side left as well. They're probably going to go no contact with Samantha, and to be honest, I don't really blame them. Judith just sat down on the goddamn floor and started howling, saying how she has ruined her life and can't believe she is going to live her years out with a cheater while her daughter gets to marry a nice boy. So I honestly feel that all this wasn't even an accident or a drunken mistake. I genuinely believe that Judith is so narcissistic that she planned this to deliberately sabotage her daughter's happiness just because she never got that happiness herself. The wedding was an absolute disaster, and Mark is pissed. He hasn't been talking to Samantha, and she is miserable. She sent me an email detailing everything that happened and apologizing for her behavior, but the apology also came with the blame that I should have come when she called me and that it was my duty as her father to have been there, taken her side, and tried to bring things back to normalcy. I haven't responded to her, and I don't think I will, even though I have a lot to say. But there's no point in saying anything because I know she isn't going to understand my perspective and my feelings. So it is time for me to protect myself. She has hurt me enough, and now I need to take some space for myself. I have been selfless all my life and thought about others and never put myself first, but I haven't received the same in return. So now it is time for me to prioritize myself. I might just end up telling her that I need some space and that I will get back in touch with her if I want to. But as of now, that is the most that I can do. I don't think I will be updating anymore because I want this chapter of my life to be over. I want to bang my head against the wall and grieve every time I think of what happened between Sam and me, but I think it is karma that has come to bite her in the ass, and on the most important day of her life too. She was worried that Mark's parents would not like me, which is why Judith and Stephen were her preferred parents, but at the end of the day, they are the ones that humiliated her and embarrassed her so much that she can't even look at her in-laws anymore, and it was me that she had to run to help salvage the situation. Update 1. To all those who are hoping for a dramatic update, I am sorry to disappoint you. No jaw-dropping event has happened. A lot of you were hoping and wishing that Mark would leave Samantha, but that hasn't happened either. They are still very much together. If there are disagreements between them, I do not know and I do not wish to. Those are issues between a husband and a wife, and they should stay that way. I do not mean to intrude in their lives, and I know I am not welcome anyway, and even if I were, I don't want to be a part of Samantha's life anymore. I have done my duty to the best of my ability, and now I'm taking a step back. I did not respond to her email. I thought that I would, but I realized that even an attempt to ask her to give me space and respect my boundaries would be met with blame and criticism from her, so it was literally pointless. In other news, I joined a biker club in my town and we meet once a week for drinks. I have made a couple of friends there and it feels good to have people to talk to. One of the guys forced me to make a dating app. He's a young lad, but he seems good. They're all younger than me, so they try to keep me aware of the new things that youngsters do. It is quite entertaining. They've made a Bumble profile for me and keep asking me if I have any matches or not. One of them is actually coming over today to teach me how to talk to women and get dates for myself. I feel a little nervous if I'm being honest. Haha, I haven't done this ever in my life, but it is also exciting. I have friends, I have a social circle, and I have something to look forward to. I would much rather have my daughter with me and my family back, but I guess we don't always get what we want and I need to make my peace with that. If I do end up scoring a date, I will let you know. Please leave some tips in the comments for this old man. Update 2. I have my first date today. I met her on a dating app. It's with a woman named Casey. Fake name, obviously. She got divorced a couple of years ago. Her husband was apparently a huge mama's boy and her ex-MIL kept interfering in their dynamic. She finally had enough and said goodbye. Nothing is serious between us right now and we are only meeting for a couple of drinks. We have been talking to each other for a while now and I kind of like her. Feels good to talk to a woman and get attention. I have been starved of this feeling for most of my life. Even during my marriage, Judith wasn't really the kind who was very expressive or loving, so this is a good and surprising change for me. Gosh, I feel so stupid having a crush at the age of 50. But she's a beautiful and kind woman and I wouldn't mind her company at all. I hope it goes well with her. My friends have all been preparing me for the date and they are even more excited than I am. They came over last night to finalize my outfit for the date. I didn't even know it was that big of a deal. But then again, I am practically ancient now. I have been given a list of do's and don'ts to memorize. All my friends are waiting for the date to be over so I can give them the details. I am excited too. It feels nice to feel young again, to have friends and to have a life that is not just responsibilities but also fun. I miss that and I hope this feeling lasts for a long time because I have craved this for as long as I can remember. Now on to the next story. Story 10. Wife suddenly wanted a divorce. Then I discovered their affair and exposed it to their boss and got them both fired. Now she's jobless. Her new guy wants to leave her, and she's begging for my help. I'm a 31-year-old guy, and I've been in a relationship with my soon-to-be ex-wife, who's 28, for 7 years. We were married for 5 of those years. We both had jobs that made us think kids weren't in our plans, but we had so many other amazing plans for our future. Throughout the 7 years we were together, we never had any disagreements about the direction we wanted to take or the goals we had for our future. So, back in February, my wife started a new job, and that's when she met this guy, her coworker, who's 38 years old. After her 2-week training, she came home, and I noticed that she was chatting a lot with this guy. I've never been a jealous person, and I understand that our industry is male-dominated, so she's often surrounded by guys. I always trusted her and never questioned her loyalty or boundaries. However, I couldn't help but notice that she was texting this guy a lot. In March, I brought it up twice, expressing my concerns, but she reassured me that he's just a friend, and I shouldn't worry. They had common interests, like being Christians, and they chatted a lot about the Bible. I'm not religious. She even said that she would stop talking to him if I felt uncomfortable, but I knew they were going for training together again at the end of March. I realized it would be impossible to stop her from talking to him, so I didn't push the issue further. I always made sure to check in with my wife to see if she was happy in our marriage or if there was anything I could do to improve things. I never received any negative feedback from her, and even as recently as mid-March, she was telling me that I was the best thing that ever happened to her. However, things took a turn when she left for a month of job training in a different location at the end of March. In the first few days, everything seemed normal between us, but as the week progressed, we started to fight a lot. I'll admit some of it was my fault because I was going through some personal stuff and was feeling quite emotional, but there was something else bothering me too. She seemed distant and expressed some strange ideas about the future that didn't sound like her at all. This made me feel uneasy because we used to hardly ever argue about anything. I can't even remember the last time we had a big fight before April. It's been a confusing and challenging time for both of us. I felt really bad about arguing with her because I knew how important it was for her. The main issue we were fighting about was her not maintaining clear boundaries with this guy from work, and it was obvious to me that he was interested in her romantically. Then she brought up the need for space and time to think about our relationship and our future. She assured me that she still loved me, but things weren't the same anymore. I was confused, but I respected her request for space because I didn't fully understand what was going on. After a couple of days, she dropped the bombshell of divorce during a FaceTime conversation. It was devastating, and at that moment, I still didn't have a clear grasp of the situation, but deep down, I had a gut feeling that she might be leaving with this other guy. It's been a roller coaster of emotions and uncertainty for me. When she finally returned home in mid-May, I went to the airport to pick her up. As soon as I saw her, something felt off. She didn't even give me a hug after not seeing each other for a month and a half. When we got home, she didn't bother unpacking her luggage that first night. She looked me in the eyes and told me directly that she wanted a divorce and that she no longer loved me. It was incredibly tough and hurtful, but I was still holding on to the hope that maybe our arguments and my emotional ups and downs had contributed to her feelings. So I tried to work things out, but the very next day, she started acting differently. She claimed she wanted to clean the house and create nice memories for the last couple of days before she left. I sensed something wasn't right, and I felt like she was hiding things from me. So, for the first time in 7 years, I went through her phone. There, I discovered that even before she came back home, she was already in a relationship with that coworker guy, and they had even signed a lease to move in together. This was just a month and a half after she had left home at the end of March. She had told this guy that she was willing to give up everything to start anew with him. It was a devastating revelation, and it left me feeling even more hurt and confused. I still feel terrible to this day for going through her phone because it's something I had never done in our relationship before, and I felt like I had crossed a line. However, at that moment, I decided to take screenshots of her conversations with the coworker and acted like nothing happened, just to see how far she would go with all the lies she had been telling me. For the following days, I kept asking her questions about her and this coworker, but I never got any honest answers. Finally, that night when we were talking, I got really frustrated and angry, and I started pressing her for the truth. She turned it around and blamed me for my own issues, saying, "That's why we could never be together." Even during our heated arguments, she continued to lie. Eventually, she decided to leave that night, and as soon as she was gone, I sent her all the screenshots I had taken and told her that I already knew everything. I admitted that I was testing her to see how far she would go with her deception. She then claimed that they only started their relationship after she brought up divorce, so she argued that it wasn't cheating. She also said that she had been wanting out of the relationship for a long time but was just waiting for the right moment because she perceived me as controlling and abusive. Seeing her leave and knowing it might be the last time I see her was one of the hardest moments in my life. I kept asking her to be honest with me and show some respect for our marriage until the very end. She had been an amazing wife for 7 years, and it's tough for me to understand how she could change so drastically in such a short period of time. I'm still left with a lot of confusion and questions. After she moved out, I didn't waste any time and hired a lawyer to file for divorce. She didn't want any of the belongings I got her, the house, the cars, or any financial support. She just wanted to end things. It's not a decision I wanted to make, but I couldn't risk her changing her mind, so I went ahead with the divorce process. I already have the signed paperwork back, so it's in progress now. It's been a tough journey, but I'm trying to stay strong and move forward. I wanted to make sure she learned a valuable lesson before I walked away for good. What she did was hurtful, and I was feeling really upset, so I decided to act without causing any harm to my own character. I gathered all the screenshots of her conversations with her coworker and put them into a PDF. Then I sent it to their boss. My hope was that this would help them understand the consequences of their actions and treat others with more respect in the future. And just like that, the both of them got fired from the company. A perfect way to start their love story. Even though I'm still hurt by her cheating, I didn't want to stoop to her level and ruin my own reputation in the process. It's been 2 months since she told me she wanted a divorce, and I'm happy to say that I'm doing a lot better now. My soon-to-be ex has been trying to contact me, begging for mercy. She told me she's been having trouble being able to find a job since, and the guy she moved in with is having second thoughts on breaking up with her since he lost his job because of her. If she thinks I will help her in any way, then she's absolutely nuts. During this time, I've been trying to focus on myself and work towards building a new life and becoming a better person. I understand that neither of us was perfect, nor our relationship had its flaws, but what hurt me the most was how quickly everything changed. In less than 2 months, she went from being in our marriage to being in a new relationship and now living together with this person. It's been hard to grasp how all the memories we shared, the things we built together, and the plans we had for the future could seemingly vanish overnight because of someone new in her life. However, I've come to realize that dwelling on the past won't help me move forward. Instead, I want to focus on the positive aspects of my life and the opportunities that lie ahead. I'm learning to accept that some things are beyond my control, and I'm determined to create a bright future for myself. I believe that as time goes on, I'll heal, and new adventures and joys will come my way. Now on to the next story. Story 11. GF got a promotion and started working late. I trusted her until I found her texts with a coworker. I caught them in the act and made her boss and the company new. I, 25 male, and my girlfriend, 24 female, met 3 years ago at a party my fraternity was hosting. Admittedly, I was pretty wild toward the end of my college experience. I felt like I had everything figured out. In the last semester I was in school, I had a huge case of senioritis when I met my girlfriend. Originally, I thought it was just going to be a hookup. However, I quickly realized that she and I had something serious between us. We started officially dating and we were monogamous toward each other. We both graduated and got jobs after college. About a year after, we decided to move in together. Both of us were new in our fields and we were doing everything in our power to work our way up. My girlfriend wasn't very happy with her job. She felt like she was being overlooked a lot of the time and some of the tasks that she was doing seemed disrespectful compared to things some of the other employees were doing. It ended up paying off for her because she was offered a promotion directly by her boss. She had a lot more responsibility and she got quite a large pay raise alongside it. The initial job description she gave me didn't make it seem like she would be spending a lot of late nights at the office, but every so often I would get a text message saying that she wouldn't be coming home for dinner. I'd offer to bring her food or stop by and help her out so she wasn't there too late, but she always declined. I really trusted her, so I never thought anything was happening. I believed everything she said when she told me she was working. A couple of months after she got her promotion, she told me that she would be traveling to a conference for work. It was going to be across the country in Los Angeles. There were a ton of things she had always wanted to do and several of them were in California. We had talked about vacationing there together before, so I suggested that it could be fun for me to take the time off work and join her. She quickly shut that idea down. I was hurt by how fast she rejected it, but she just told me that we couldn't afford the lost time. I moved on from that pretty quickly, and I was just happy for her that she was finally going to get to go. The weeks leading up to her business trip were mostly uneventful. A few days before she left, we got into a small argument about our relationship. She had been staying late at work more often, and I felt like she wasn't being attentive, so I confronted her about it. She was really defensive and tried to tell me that she just had to work harder than I did to get places in life. Our different upbringings have been a point of contention with us in the past, but I hated when she brought it up. I've been lucky enough to have familial connections in my industry. I grew up in an upper-class household, and I was able to afford to go to good schools. I was a legacy in my fraternity, and I had plenty of contacts thanks to my family. My girlfriend didn't have any of that, and she would often throw it in my face as if I didn't deserve any of the accomplishments I'd made. After the argument, things were a little awkward, but she promised me that we would talk more about it when she got back from her trip. I told myself that I was just going to forget about it and let her enjoy her time while she was there. Before she left, she told me that she would call me every night that she was in California. I had actually been looking forward to it because I was interested to know what she was getting up to. The first night she called me and gave me a rundown of her entire day. She was somewhat jet-lagged and exhausted from the plane ride then, so there wasn't much to report. Though on the second day, I was waiting by the phone at the time we set aside to call, and she never reached out. I ended up texting her to see what was going on, but she didn't reply until the morning. She told me she passed out and didn't set an alarm. I accepted that. She had given me no reason to doubt that story, so I believed it. Once again, the following night, she never called me. I felt kind of foolish just waiting by the phone for her to reach out. I ended up getting an invite to a party a friend was throwing, so I went to that instead. Aside from texting every so often, I didn't talk to her for the entire 5 days she was in California. I was excited for her to come home, but at the same time I knew that we were going to have a difficult conversation when she finally got back. It almost seemed like she didn't want anything to do with me. The distance between us seemed to have grown in the short time she was gone. I tried to talk to her about it, but she just didn't want to talk. It was incredibly frustrating trying to deal with her when she was putting so little effort into communicating. So I took to the internet to try to figure out what was going on. From everything I could gather, it seemed to be a logical conclusion that something might have happened with another person outside of our relationship. I didn't want to believe that she was cheating on me, but I needed to at least rule that out. I didn't know how to ask her about it, so the first chance I had to look through her phone, I took it. We knew each other's passwords, so it wasn't hard getting in. The difficult part was trying to figure out what I was looking for. I looked through her pictures and I didn't see anything. I didn't find anything in her recent messages that was alarming. I ended up searching through the messages for some keywords that might tip off anything serious going on. When I typed in the word, together, a lot of different messages came up. However, I was able to read from the snippets of text that there was somebody who had recently messaged her about wanting to be together. I clicked on the messages and I read through all of them. I didn't know the man she had been texting, but from what I could gather, it was a coworker. Apparently, they had been sleeping together for some time. The man was asking her when she was going to leave me. I didn't know if she had told him that she planned to or if he was just assuming that she would. I was going to make it a lot easier for her and break up with her. It was clear that she didn't want me to go to California with her because she planned on spending the week with him. It all made sense why she hadn't been available to talk to me during that time. I felt heartbroken. Initially, that was the last thing I expected her to do, and I was shocked to find out she was cheating. When I read about other people in similar situations online, I assumed that it just wouldn't happen to me, but I was wrong. From their messages, I was able to glean that she and her affair partner had been fooling around on the job. She had done me dirty, so I wanted to make things a little more difficult for her. I knew how hard she worked to get where she was in her company, so I knew how hard it would be for her to lose it all. A couple of nights passed and I played it cool. I stopped pressing her to talk about the distance between us and I just accepted it. One evening she texted me at 4:30 p.m. telling me that she was going to be staying late at work. I knew that was her basically saying she was staying late at work to sleep with this man. I replied and told her that it was okay, and then I would put a plate aside for her in the microwave for her to heat up. Of course, I took that opportunity to go find proof that she was cheating on me. No employer wanted to work with people that were having sex in the offices, so I thought if I could get some evidence I could show it to her boss. When I walked in, the building was pretty much empty aside from a janitor. I had to lie and tell him that I was an employee that had forgotten their keys. My girlfriend's office was practically empty, though after a minute of snooping, I was able to find her and her affair partner in what was very clearly their boss's office. If I had been worried that their relationship wasn't going to get them both fired before, I knew right away the proof of them sleeping together in his office would. I was as quiet as I had ever been while I took a video and a couple of pictures of them. I was able to get the boss's information through the company's website. I reached out to him, and after a few days, he contacted me and told me he wanted to see the evidence that I had mentioned. I brought it to his office in the middle of a workday where my girlfriend saw me walk in and showed him. My girlfriend was surprised to see me, so she knocked on her boss's door and asked me what I was doing there, while trying to pull me in for a friendly hug. Her boss just glared at her and asked her if she could take a seat before dismissing me from the office. I stood on the outside of the door for a minute while I listened to him fire her. She stormed out and stood in front of me completely shocked. I doubt she had any idea I even knew about the affair before that. I ended things with her right there in front of all of her coworkers, and I told her that I wanted her out of the apartment. She tried to play it off like it was her decision because she wanted to be with the other man anyway. If that were truly the case, why wouldn't she have just left me to begin with? It's been about 6 months since all of that happened, and I haven't heard from her. We have a lot of mutual friends from college, and they have told me that she is actively looking for a job. She's been doing online insurance sales in the meantime, which is absolutely nothing she planned to do. As far as they know, she's also single, so I guess it didn't work out with the other guy. Now on to the next story. Story 12. Best friend flew to Texas to tell me she's dating my abusive ex who almost unalived me. When I kicked her out, he showed up at my work with threatening messages. I've tried to write this out for days now, but I keep getting too upset to concentrate, so this might be a bit jumpy. I don't have family in the sense many understand family to be, so I've been pretty much a loner with one exception, my best friend Tammy. We met in middle school and just became joined at the hip. Things changed a bit in college. My parents forced me into a Christian out-of-state college. Tammy applied and got accepted to the other college in the town, so we both went out there and were roommates for 2 of the years before I met my first ever boyfriend. I will call him Trent. I moved in with him the end of junior year, and I don't know when it started happening, but he went from charming and affectionate to controlling. I don't wish to upset anyone, so I will hit the pause button and warn you that below is some of the things he did for me to label him abusive. He would put me down and hint he could find someone better, or that if he cheats, it will be my fault since I wasn't this or that enough. It started to get physical senior year. At first, it was him pushing me out of the way if he was walking by and I was in the path for whatever reason. Then he would slap me in arguments, calling me worthless, a waste of his time and young years, a broken toy no one will love. I didn't have any real self-esteem, so I stayed thinking I was the problem, and when I called home about it, I was told that the problem was me. I started to make my exit plan. The day after I graduated, he had proposed, and I hesitated. He screamed at me to ask why, then swung and punched the wall right next to my head. I fell to the floor in fear, and he tried to comfort me and basically forced me into sex. When I woke up the next morning, the ring was on my finger, and he forced me again and later called it make-up sex, saying he forgave me for the way I treated him. That is the extremely short explanation, but there are so many stories of him forcing me into bed, hitting me or threatening to kill me and more, so I started to make a plan. I found a shelter in the city nearby. I started hiding things in the trunk of my car. I was in the service industry then, and so I would take more shifts whenever I could and hide my cash tips in a box of tampons in my purse. And I finally was ready and left him. Left my phone. I had a new, cheap one and never went back. Tammy knew him and lived near us, but she didn't know about my plan. She messaged me on social media and I told her what happened, all of what happened, so she played dumb when he came around asking where I was, spinning the story that I was suicidal and he is calling the police to find me. He never found me. That was years ago. I am now 36 and Tammy is 32. Trent is 38. Tammy became a bit religious, but I told her as long as she is happy and safe, I don't care what she leans on in faith. She started to invite me out to her church 4 years ago, and I kept saying no until I very firmly said if she brought it up again, I would just walk out or hang up. I'm not against anyone believing what they want. I just don't want or need to be sucked into it. I honestly do not mean any offense to anyone of any faith. I myself am just agnostic, and if that ever will change, I will decide on my own, but I doubt it will. She got a job 2 years ago overseas. I acted excited for her, and but I was also deeply devastated. Without her, I had no one else. By this time, I wasn't in contact much with family, and I do have surface-level friends, but no one that's known me in the real sense. I worked it out with my counselor and just carried on. We stayed in touch online and video chatted a lot. She would show me London, and I would show her my transition to moving to Texas. We would chronicle our explorations of our new cities, and then one day, it started to slow down on her end, right around the time she went to visit a friend in our old college town. She then asked if she flew to Texas sometime this summer, could she stay with me a few days, and I excitedly agreed. So early this month, just a few weeks ago, she came here. She was off the whole first day, but I figured she was tired. Then the next day, we went out and got drunk. She started to cry, and I got us an Uber back to my place and asked her what was wrong. That's when she asked me not to hate her and told me everything. She's with Trent. She's been with him almost a year. I was too stunned to even say anything, and she went on and on about how it's not what I think and he has changed. She told me he found Jesus and turned his life around and deeply regrets the way he treated me. The more she talked, the more I just shut off. I didn't even have it in me to feel anger. I just stared at her, frozen as she talked until she said, "Please, just say something." So I did. I told her to get the hell out. She started to explain it all again. She hated him forever, but they kept running into each other. He goes to church and showed he has changed, blah blah blah. I didn't interrupt her, but when she stopped talking again, I just repeated myself. She argued more, and I would just listen and repeat until she grabbed her stuff and left. It was silent between us for a week until my dad texted me that Tammy called my parents crying and told me to get over myself. After all, it's not like I wanted to get back with him, right? And that's what I get for living with a man I wasn't married to. Then she texted the next week, rehashing her argument and pretty much demanding I video chat with him to see for myself that he's changed and forgive him. She then blamed me that they can't take the next steps in their relationship because I don't have a forgiving heart and that I was malicious when I kicked her out. I've spent all of this week trying to figure out if I'm insane to think this is a huge betrayal, a deal breaker. I mean, who even dates their friend's ex for one? But this? I blocked her after she hinted that my version of things was exaggerated and malicious, but I don't have other friends to turn to about this. I don't think I am, but my dad and her family thinks I am, at least for kicking her out in a strange city alone when she was just being honest with me. Am I? Update. Hey guys. Sorry to everyone who reached out and I haven't responded. Took Trent 2 weeks. I had a full-time job, but also a part-time service industry job as a bartender. He showed up at the bar. It's a small bar in one of the regulars. Daisy, F30S, is one of the folk I did confide in about Trent and Tammy. When Trent walked in, I happened to be chatting with Daisy and she saw my reaction. She asked what was wrong and I told her that it was Trent. She wasted no time and went to get my manager. Trent sat at the end of the bar and I took my time checking in on my other bar guests until my manager, Heather, F50S, came out with the other 2 bartenders, both M30S. Trent had already begun knocking on the bar, asking for service loudly, and I had been ignoring him. He got kicked out quickly and told that we can and do refuse service to him. I got texts from a new number saying it was Tammy and begging for me to answer. She called 4 times and I didn't answer. She left voicemails with Trent and one without, all telling me that I was concerning them with my hatefulness, how I am alone in the world and that's not safe, who would I turn to if someone broke into my home at night, things of that nature and religious crap sprinkled in. I was still on the clock and Daisy suggested I stay at her parents'. I know her mom, who sometimes comes with her to the bar. At that point, I was shaken enough to take them up on it. Daisy's mom, Rose, F60S, has been sweet enough to let me stay rent-free for as long as I needed, but I eventually moved in with one of the servers at the bar. She helped me look for legal representation and I filed for a restraining order using screenshots I had emailed myself prior, old voicemails, and though we could not prove harassment on Tammy's end, Trent had said enough in the voicemails and messages he had sent that it qualified for a temporary restraining order. I am safe for now and the hearing is in January. No one knows where I live currently and I've shut down all social media. I've been in NC with my family as they've been pushing me to give my address so they can send Christmas gifts. But when I gave them a P.O. box Daisy is allowing me to use, they got angry it wasn't an address and that was suspicious enough for me not to trust them. It's strange, but I am slowly making friendships and seeing a counselor helps with the stress. Trent is pretty much blacklisted from the square of bars where my bar is. Word gets around. I've not walked alone a single shift since, and that's my update. Not perfect, but I remembered my password when I was checking my email for any additional stuff to send to my lawyer and wanted to let every person concerned about me that I am okay. When this is resolved, I will try to update with more detail. Now on to the next story. Story 13. Girlfriend hates my female friend and calls her a pick-me girl and gave me ultimatum. Either skip the group trip or she's moving out because my friend is going with me. I, 26M, really need an outside perspective on a situation with my girlfriend, 26F. For starters, my girlfriend and I have been together for 3 years. Throughout our relationship, things have been mostly good. Our schedules conflict a bit and we've had our issues, but we make it work. A big issue between us right now is over a good friend, 28F of mine. For clarity, I'll refer to this friend as Violet. For some context, me and Violet are part of a small friend group. There are 2 other people in the group. We met while attending a film festival around 2 years ago now. We were all waiting in line to enter the theater. The line was long, and we all kind of naturally struck conversation and hit it off. We kept in contact afterwards. Everyone in the group is mostly long distance, so we can't hang out in person altogether too much, but we talk daily and have group gaming sessions and anime/movie watch-alongs. Violet lives the closest near me, pretty much in the next town over, so we see each other in person the most outside of the group's virtual meetups. I do want to mention that I invited my girlfriend to each virtual and in-person meetups, and she turned me down every time. I try including her, but she doesn't want anything to do with it, in large part because she doesn't particularly care for our interests. Stuff like anime, manga, or gaming is childish to her. The movies we watch are mostly older-era films and films that were restored, but she's not into those either. This disconnect between us was an issue before I even made this group of friends. It's not like she'll engage in these things to spend time together. Like, I grew up on game nights. I'm not even talking about video games necessarily, I'm talking board games, card games, etc., but she doesn't care for that. She either shuts it down and goes off to do her own thing, or if she does actually watch something with me or play a game, then she makes it known that it's a chore for her and she belittles whatever it is increasingly throughout. She calls it joking, but it feels more like belittling. It gets to a point where I don't even enjoy whatever we're watching or playing. I'm not particularly a huge fan of reality TV, but I still watch with her and try genuinely engaging because for me, it's not about the show so much as it's about spending some quality time together. So my friendship with the group has been a nice change of pace and has brought some balance, but it's become an ongoing issue in my relationship. Recently, the group has been putting together a trip to this upcoming anime con. The event lasts for a weekend, so the plan was to stay together at an Airbnb and split the cost. My girlfriend is outright against the trip because of Violet. She doesn't like my friendship with her and doesn't really seem to like Violet at all. She has a general annoyance whenever Violet's involved and gets upset whenever I talk or hang out with her. We could be having a disagreement about something entirely unrelated, and somehow it'll circle around to Violet. She also calls Violet a pick-me girl. When the trip was first being put together, I invited my girlfriend. She had no interest in coming and later expressed an issue with me going. She doesn't like that I'd be staying in the same house as Violet during the trip. I offered a compromise of me just booking a hotel and meeting up with everyone, but that wasn't an acceptable option for her either. Nothing I propose she's willing to hear me out on. It's all on deaf ears because she knows Violet's going. The trip has become a major point of contention between us. She now says that it's proof that I have feelings for Violet because I keep defending her during arguments and because I won't let the trip go. I haven't let the trip go because I would really like to attend the con, and it's rare that everyone in the group schedules link up like this. My girlfriend views it as me taking a getaway with Violet. She's firm on her position on the trip and has given me an ultimatum. She said I could do whatever I wanted but know that if I went on the trip, then I'd be choosing Violet over her, and that she'd act accordingly. I honestly don't know what to do anymore. I'm not saying her feelings are invalid. Her feelings are her feelings, but I feel that she's being unreasonable and that her insecurity about my friendship with Violet is baseless. I feel pulled in two different directions, and now this ultimatum. All I do is compromise in our relationship, and it just feels one-sided. I don't understand why this one thing would be a deal-breaker. How do I go about addressing this with her now? Update: November 11th, 2024. I, 26M, wanted to give an update on the situation with my girlfriend, 26F, and her ultimatum. First off, thank you to everyone who commented and reached out. I really appreciated the feedback. It gave me a lot to consider. I didn't get a chance to reply to comments, so I'll address those questions in this update as well. A lot of people asked how my GF and I even got together. We knew of each other back in high school, but we didn't move in the same circles. We actually ended up going to the same college and bumped into each other at a party, so I think that's where our initial connection began. We were in this big college pond, and having a familiar face from back home made adjusting easier. We didn't start dating until later, though. Things felt more like a mutual respect back then. It was after we got together that it was almost like this overnight complete intolerance. I was also asked why she considered my friend Violet, 28F, a pick-me girl. I honestly don't know the definition. Is it when I ask my GF, she only says that a woman knows another woman? She won't elaborate. She never pinpoints specifics. My GF was known to have a bit of a mean girl side back in high school. TBH, we discussed this before we started dating, and she seemed to work through that in college, but now it feels like that side very much shows whenever it comes to my interests or with anything involving Violet. In regard to the ultimatum, I went back and forth on what I should do and what I wanted for me individually and for my relationship. I decided to still go on the group trip. I do believe compromise is part of a relationship, but this ultimatum isn't that. It's an attempt to bulldoze in order to have control instead of working together. I had to ask myself, if I did go along with this ultimatum, then what will it lead to? What stops other ultimatums against my interests or whenever she sees fit? I still wanted to give another shot at working things out, so I had that talk with my GF and let her know of my intentions of going on the trip. I told her that I understood her feelings and that she does matter to me, but I felt that this ultimatum wasn't healthy going forward for anyone involved. I again invited her to come on the trip with her, either staying with us at the Airbnb or her and I staying at a hotel, and I thought the trip could be good for us. That was a no-go. There wasn't any compromise she was willing to accept. She was still firm on the ultimatum and said she made her position clear, and if I was still going on the trip, then there was nothing more to discuss. She kept repeating on and off that she hopes choosing Violet was worth it. I told her it had nothing to do with Violet and that she was the one making an entire group trip about Violet. The discourse wasn't anything productive. I asked her if she would please reconsider the situation. She said there was nothing to reconsider and that the choice is in my hands. I asked if we could talk again after the con to see how we were feeling, and her exact words were, "The only conversation I'll be having is with the walls because she won't be in our place anymore when I get back." Ever since then, she's barely said a word to me, and my texts are left on read. So I guess I'm unofficially being given the silent treatment. I don't understand why it has to be this way. We should be able to communicate. I don't feel equally supported, seen, or appreciated in this relationship anymore. It's a mess, but a lot of the feedback I received on here and the recent argument has been a wake-up call, and there has to be some kind of change. I do think the trip would be a nice refresher, and it's my intent to still go. I don't believe I'll be any better off not going, TBH. Thank you to everyone again. Now on to the next story. Story 14. Husband asked for divorce on our 14th anniversary trip after I found him cheating. So I met someone new and now we're engaged while my ex is begging for another chance. My 47F, husband, 47M, asked for a separation on our 14th anniversary while we were away in a foreign country to celebrate. While we weren't as close as we used to be, we almost never fought and generally enjoyed each other's company and families. We do not have any children. The night before our anniversary, he brought up he wasn't very happy in the relationship but didn't know why. The next morning I asked to see his phone and he said no. He said I would find flirty messages with one or more other women on it. He had made some female friends through school and work, and he said felt like there might be someone out there who was a better fit for him. I said I did not want to do a trial separation as I don't believe you can work on something if you aren't living together. If he wanted to separate, it would be final. He understood but said it was something he had to do. After being away for only 2 days, we rebooked our flights home. Flew home and he packed some belongings and left. 7 days later, he asked to come home and we started marriage counseling. He had a lot of trouble admitting he had at least one emotional affair. The counseling was not helpful. He was defensive and not open to it. I suspect something physical happened with the other woman, but I do not have any proof. He had deleted all his flirty texts, Snapchat, etc., so I could not see them. After 4 weeks of living together again and attending counseling sessions, he decided he no longer wanted to try to save the marriage and he was leaving. He packed up and left a few hours later. He stayed with a friend, found a new apartment and signed a 1-year lease. I was devastated and even had to take time off work to process what had happened and attend individual counseling. After 4 weeks, I started to feel a bit better. I went out for drinks with a group of 4 coworkers that live in my area and found I really enjoyed one of them, 42M, a lot. I had only met him over Zoom before this. We started seeing each other a couple times a week. Quite quickly it grew into a truly amazing, loving relationship. I've stayed in counseling throughout as it wasn't easy to process the sudden ending of my long-term marriage at the same time as beginning something new. It's been about 7 months now. My ex-husband eventually decided he wanted to try to save the marriage again, but I declined. He says I'm TA for starting a new relationship so quickly. Within 6 weeks of him leaving, our relationship was over as I can no longer trust him and he has hurt me immensely. I do not want a relationship with someone I cannot trust. Am I TA for moving on? Comments where OP has replied. Comment 1, NTA. He literally said he felt there'd be a better woman for him somewhere. He's cheated on you probably multiple times. So he doesn't have the right to be mad at you for moving on when he couldn't even stay faithful to you. He can't try to get rid of you and want you again. Comment 2. He was expecting OP to stay single, still want him, and not move on while he did whatever he wanted. P. Did you actually get a divorce? OP. In our state, couples must be separated a year before they can file for divorce. But yes, we will be filing when we can. The wait sucks though. Update. October 25th, 2024. I am not sure how to provide an update, so I hope this is right. The biggest update is that my ex-husband, 48M, and I, 47F, are finally officially divorced. We split everything equally and I bought him out of the family home. Thankfully, the divorce process was quick and easy once we waited the mandatory separation period for our state. When signing the divorce papers, he asked if I was sure I wanted to proceed. Notably, while he was seeing someone else, he wanted to try again if I was willing. I wasn't, and thankfully he didn't fight it or make the divorce process more difficult in any way. My ex has been seeing this woman for quite a while now. I know he knew her before we split, but I do not know if he cheated with her or not. It doesn't matter to me. I wish them the best. My relationship with my new partner, 42M, has continued to be amazing. It's the best relationship I've ever been in, and I can honestly say I've never been more happy. He is kind, loving, and a great communicator. We moved in together a while back, and a few months later we became engaged. We plan to elope sometime in the next year. While it may seem crazy, I am extremely grateful for my ex's cheating and the following heartbreak. Without it, I may not have found the happiness I have today. We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.